Welcome to Empirical Pre-Pod. I'm your host, Tim Dave. Thank you so much for continuing this journey with me, where I get to sit and talk to all my favorite people. You guys remember the drill. Don't forget to like, follow, share, subscribe, whatever is going on out there. Let's get into today's episode.
So, today we're going to talk about our friend Dan T. I have some of my favorite people in the world. Miss Annie.
Hi.
Mr. Jason.
Hello.
Andy.
Hello.
Yunker.
Yo.
And Walsh.
Hello.
You know most of these people anyway. They've all been on the show in various forms. Our friend T was the greatest person you could ever know, and he decided he did not want to be here anymore and left us. And this is all I want to speak on it, is just to get out of the way. If you feel any sort of way, need any sort of thing, fucking reach out. I believe it's 988 now, is the suicide hotline.
Yep.
Reach out, talk to people. Everybody should be here, and everybody should have the same, fuck, I know what it's like to look in the abyss. We all do. Just fucking, all you can do is reach out, say something. And
Please.
yeah, please. That's, like I said, that's all I really want to touch on it. We've all been touched by this, so I'm going to...
I've been touched by tea a lot of different ways.
I have a bunch of recordings that I'm going to play periodically from people that I've talked to throughout this season. And I'm going to start with our friend Shoger telling a story.
I don't know about friend.
My favorite tea story. It was Thompson Junior High, and we. I told the story a lot recently. We got dropped off in that little horseshoe thing at the in front of the school, and I got dropped off, and I'm walking up the sidewalk, and then T gets dropped off, kind of in front of me, so we kind of catch up to each other. Now we're walking together and we're talking, and the cars have slowed though. We've kind of walked past all the cars, and this fucking car drives up, and the window comes down, and somebody says, "Yeah, have a great day, dickheads." And I was like, "What the fuck?" And I look at T, and he's grinning ear to ear, and I was like, "What was this?" And he's like, "That's my dad."
So, I love that story. And I wanted that to set the tone for the rest of the episode. And it also starts when they were kids. And we're lucky enough to have three of you guys that went to kindergarten with T, right?
Woo-woo!
That's crazy.
Yep.
87?
Something like 85, 88,
88.
something like that.
88.
Yeah, that's crazy. Because
I went twice,
I didn't meet T until high school. You're probably similar. Are you similar also?
Yeah, high school, because I went to Trevor.
That's right. We went to Trevor.
Boo.
Yeah, Trevor. We went to Panthers the whole way through.
Yeah. Also, Trevor was like a better version of Thompson. But can you tell us what T was like as a little kid?
Not that different.
No.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Like,
Was it really not a little? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there's an argument to be made that somewhere along the line, T's brain might have fried.
No,
I think I know the day that happened, but we can talk about
the
that
car,
later.
when he hit his
fried
head,
in
that
a T direction.
Yeah.
So there are people that they go through life and then maybe they reach a crossroads and they fork and they become this different person and then they take another fork that they wouldn't have otherwise come across. Dan T grew in a Dan T line his whole fucking life.
Mm-hmm. And that's a great story to start with too, because his dad is hilarious, and his dad's always been that way, and I think that was a big factor in shaping Dan T to be as funny as he was. One story Dan used to tell about his dad was that he used to swing him around in a laundry basket in the backyard, and one time his dad let go on accident and he flew into the fence, and his dad was like, "Don't tell your mother, let's go get ice cream." I think that tells a lot about that right there.
That makes sense. Do you remember meeting T?
No, because we were so young. It was kindergarten
It was
is
just
so
always-
blurry.
you're always
I have a
together.
real distinct memory of, I'm pretty sure this was in Mrs. Crace's class or maybe outside during recess or whatever, but he had unzipped his fly and pulled the front of his t-shirt down through his pants and out the front of the fly and was taking these big knee-high stomping steps around.
Kindergarten?
In kindergarten,
Okay,
yeah.
perfect.
That's another good
Different
place
time.
to start right there too, talking about T's clothing. But one item of clothing that he always had with him, probably since kindergarten, was his hanky. Only guy I ever knew to carry a hanky
That
with
young,
him.
he was doing
As long as I can remember, he had a hanky with him.
Do we know anybody else that uses a hanky? Because I've never met
My
anyone else.
great-grandma.
Not anyone under
I've
80.
never met her, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was always a used hanky.
Oh yeah.
Well, but it wasn't the
Gotta
same
fold
one
it the
though.
right way, I
Yeah.
guess. I don't know.
He had a lot of different
I've seen
hankies.
him
He washed
Yeah.
them.
Straight
Yeah.
But it would last them a
goblins and
day,
just
right? So
tuck
the
Yeah.
it in
nose
the
blows from 9 a.m. We're still there when
Yeah.
at midnight, you know.
Yeah. Well, did he never have two? Maybe like a spare.
Like the next day.
Where,
Right.
That's the kind of thing.
where
Like,
the fuck do you get
yeah,
a
you
hanky?
just appreciate
They're
that
just
you live
bandanas.
in that world
They're
a little bit
bandanas.
when you don't
Uh-huh.
dive too deep.
They were
Right.
bandanas.
Yeah.
No, they were hankies.
They were actual
I
hankies.
have them.
Didn't he
I
have
got
some,
you too.
what's it called, monogram,
Yeah.
where he had a DT in it or
So-
something like that? DMT?
I have a big
Do you sniff them?
pile of them. Well, they're in a Ziploc.
Ugh.
Wait, Dan's? I have some too
Yeah.
on my desk at home.
I like that there.
And they are
he,
used.
he owned enough that all of his friends could
Right.
have several.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was shocked when we were at the house and we were like, helping pack up and stuff. There was a box of some clothes and stuff, and there was a fucking giant thing of hankies. Like, I couldn't believe how many. I had never seen so many hankies in my life.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
When we were, I wish I still had the data so I could tell us all the truth about it. But in 6th grade, we were in class together, and I had in my notebook I had the hanky meter. So every time he blew his nose, like, oh, hanky.
Oh, really?
Tally.
Like a
Yeah.
tally?
Hey, do you remember meeting him? You guys were always
No,
together?
it's like Dan
Yeah.
said. It's pretty much like with kindergarten. I remember being there with them, and obviously, like one of the biggest things I remember was the kindergarten circus that we did,
Yeah.
which is available on YouTube. You should put the link in the
I will
description
gladly do
so that people can watch it. It's funny. I'm fairly certain he was the lion, right?
He was the lion,
Yeah.
and the lion tamer put his head in Dante's.
Oh, yeah.
lion.
Yeah. Yeah, I was so jealous because the lion mouth was like, so he just had like a, like a cardboard thing that he had a hole cut out for his head that he put, his face through.
Yeah.
But when it came time for the person to put their head in the lion's mouth, it was like this gigantic cardboard thing that Dan like put on his head.
like a hinge.
And then they opened it up, and I was like, God, that looks so cool. I wish I could do that.
That's awesome.
But no, I don't remember meeting him. I just
He
remember.
was just always there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do remember the very first time he ever came to my house, though, because we were wrestling or something, and I had him like pinned down, but his feet were on my chest, and he launched me up in the air, and I went flying back, and I started crying. But then he made me laugh, So, yeah,
Sounds like he whooped your ass.
he did. But then he
Deceptively strong.
Which is odd because he's so small and you're so big.
Well, and him and his brother used to wrestle all the time, and his brother was like a ninja.
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly, because he was smaller than me, and he launched me.
Yep. Yeah, that's an early memory because we went to Boulder Hill Elementary, so the three of us, me and Yunker and T, immediately learned, oh, you live like 2 blocks from me. I'm gonna ride my bike to your house like every day.
Right.
Nice.
And that is unfortunate for me because I was on the other side
so
of
you were
Boulder
always
Hill.
over
Yeah,
by
you were
the Civic
reachable
Center,
once we
right?
got a little stronger.
Yeah. Well, no, but like that's gonna be a thing. Like I want to talk about this a little bit. I kind of feel like a bit of a DNT imposter because we were always friends and I always knew him and stuff. But you guys spent a lot more time with him, all of you, and like I feel like I missed out on a lot of stuff. But I did hear like a lot of stories, obviously, all the time. But I always wished that I was there for a lot of that stuff and I missed it. So, and a lot of that was because I was farther away. Like you guys were right next to him, and
Right. And it was kind of like you were right next to Chuck and Co.
Yeah.
So and Shoger was over there too. So
Yeah, and they're fine.
There
but,
was there was definitely like all the overlap between our groups or whatever.
It would have
But
been real easy for you guys to have turned into like the across town rival gang. You always like, yeah, we're all diplomatic about the tribes.
Man, what
Well,
could have been?
the connection I had too with you guys, like me and Yunker had a massive connection because our moms
Nerds.
were friends. I think they made friends like on the first day of school or something. Maybe I'm wrong about this.
I forget exactly.
But
how,
I'm pretty sure they made friends, and we're both like, oh, we don't have anybody to watch our kids. And they were like, oh, how about we watch each other's kids? So our moms, me and Yunker's moms would trade off, where I'd go to his house and he'd go to my house. So like, that's how I kind of got closer to that group. Because you guys were, like I said, farther away.
Yeah.
So,
Jason, do you remember meeting T?
I don't remember when we met. I know
Because I know you knew some people when you first, just from coming over to Oswego,
Yeah.
because you were always in Aurora.
Yeah.
But then when you finally actually transitioned full time.
I'm pretty sure. Shit, I don't know if it was through Schmed or what, but I somehow got hooked up with all you nerds. I do remember, like, within the first week of meeting Dan, he had no backpack. I came in the hallway. He was high as shit freshman year. I had my backpack on. He's like, "Let me wear your backpack." And I was like, all right. He's like, now you get in the backpack too. So I got in the backpack with my arm, like he was on my back with my backpack on his back, and I wore them both as backpacks. And that's one of my first introductions of like, this kid's fucking crazy.
Yeah, that's an amazing introduction. Annie, do you remember your first interaction?
I do. So I lived on like the other side of Oswego. So like I started out at Eastview and I did 6th grade at Trauber, and then we moved to Boulder Hill. And so I should have been Thompson, but like whatever, because I had started at Trauber, they just let me finish out at Trauber. Right. So, geographically I was close to them. But anyway, so I missed them in middle school, which sucked. And then when we went to high school, the first memory, and I'm sure I must have met him before this, but actually, Yunker, you were the first person in this whole group that I interacted with, and I don't remember how, or you know what? I do remember. It was you and Schmed, and we were in a study hall, and you guys were playing hacky sack, and I'm like, I fucking know this game.
Oh, okay.
And I was a freshman. I know this game. Well, and at that point in time, I was kind of in this weird like friends transition, because I was always kind of like trying like chasing the cool girls, and like I really wanted to be like popular and cool, because I don't know why. And then when I finally got to high school, I was like, fuck this. Like I need some actually cool people to be around.
And that's when you became the coolest girl in school.
So then I was like kind of a loner for a little bit, because I like didn't have a group, right? Like I had Emily Wohead. I always had Emily Wohead, but for whatever reason, somehow, I was in your study hall with you and Schmed. I don't remember. I feel like maybe Shoger was there, and probably T. But it started with hacky sack. But my first actual memory of T was in Cheech trying to see who could fit in a locker. And I'm like, who is this kid? Because of course, T fit in it perfectly. So he just got in and he was just like, boop. And closed the door, and like I was like, and I remember thinking like, fuck, I don't know the combination. Like I hope somebody has the combo
That
to
would
that
freak me
locker,
out.
because it didn't have the vents,
Oh, yeah.
And then Cheech was trying to get in the locker, and he couldn't get in, and then so T was like, I win. And then we were like, can anybody get him? Because it was passing period. Like we only got 3.5 minutes, buddy. Like that's my first memory of like.
Amazing.
Being like, that's Dan Terracina. I like that guy. He's my people.
He can fit in the locker.
He can see, yeah.
Fuck that Cheech guy.
Fuck that Cheech guy. Dan T, probably my dude.
Yeah. I also met him the first day of high school. Him and I were partners in physical science.
Okay.
And I've never told this story because he loved telling this story. So I'm basing it off of what he said, not what I remember, because it's embarrassing now. But I have a series of books by Ashita Kim all about how to be a ninja. And T says, apparently the first day of school when they asked me to introduce myself, I held up this book and was like, I'm going to be a ninja.
Yeah. That's what he told me.
Yeah.
That's
he told me that?
Yeah. He told, and that's how
because T was like, I got to be friends with this guy, he's going to be a ninja.
that was like my first introduction to you.
Yeah, he basically came to us and was like, hey, we have a new friend.
Yeah.
He's gonna be a
He's the
ninja.
ninja.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
How's that working out?
Still here.
Yeah, right.
It's working out.
I can still see you.
I'm
you
I'm
can't.
choosing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does anybody have any other fun stories from high school?
Well,
my
since we
gosh.
started with the youth and his dad was always a goofball. One of the games that I remember him playing with us when we'd come over, like sleepovers and stuff, is he would chase us around with a knife.
Oh yeah,
Right? The
Okay,
game.
that was
That's
my
the
first
game.
introduction
That's my
to T's
first.
dad, was getting chased by him with a knife.
I
and
have- I have one of those,
And then
too.
I looked at you, or
Yeah,
you
that's
guys,
what
and
you're
everyone's
saying.
laughing, and I'm like, so we're okay?
Yep.
Okay.
That was my first T-bone.
T-Bone.
I was playing. We were all playing. Probably PlayStation 1 or something
Yep.
in the room. And next thing you know, fucking
door
Dan,
flies open.
Dan's dad
He
kicked
was
the
in
door
closet.
open.
That might have been the night. You might have brought me over there.
I don't think so. Maybe.
No?
Maybe.
I don't know.
Because he kicked open the door and he jumped on me on T's couch and he had a knife at my throat. And he goes, Dan, who the fuck is this guy?
Jesus.
He's like, he's like, that's Jay. And I'm sitting there like, who the fuck? Like, what's going on? And he I don't know if he just wasn't paying attention, but he actually cut my neck.
Oh, jeez.
Oh my gosh.
He gets up, he goes, hey, you're all right.
Yeah.
And he just left and shut the door like nothing fucking happened.
Yeah.
That was my first introduction to Dan's dad.
Yeah. That was
I guess I
So
might as
apparently
well.
knives are the thing he does.
I guess I might as well just say mine because it was almost exactly the same thing.
He does do knives. Me and you have
He
a
does
knife
that.
story,
He
too.
did that forever. I mean, when T lived in Yorkville and had that upstairs room, there'd be time where we'd hear the door at the bottom of the stairs open and be like, okay, we would just look at each other and we'd hop out the window onto the roof and watch his dad come up with the knife like,
Oh my gosh.
Lock the room.
Where is everyone?
and the best story about this was when T had his
had
wisdom
mono.
teeth
Oh,
pulled.
it was wisdom teeth.
Yeah. So we hadn't seen him a couple of days. We went over to bring in a gift of a styrofoam airplane and tampons, I believe. We were so
For his
funny.
mouth.
He was in the tub when we got there, so we just let ourselves in and snuck upstairs. And
He
we
was
were
in the
like,
tub.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
How
were
old was he again?
seven-
Wisdom teeth?
16?
Oh, yeah. How old is Yunker? He's
Yeah, right. I'm going to take a bath tonight.
Wait, you still take baths, right?
You taking a tubby?
Yeah, for
Okay.
sure.
Yunker's never been clean.
Yeah. This isn't
Never
about
been
me.
cleaner after one of those tubbies.
So T's in
Was
the tub.
Yorkville?
Yeah, so T's in the
Yorkville
tub.
after high school though?
No, it was during
No,
high
it was
school.
during high school.
It was like junior year he moved there or something.
Sorry, Jay.
And so we went upstairs and we were just waiting for him. And then it was like 30, 45 minutes later, he still hadn't come up. Yeah. So we were like, what are we going to do? So we turned on his TV and he had like Donald Duck cartoons. So we turned those on and we cranked them up really loud.
volume.
And then we went and hid in the closet. And we heard his dad come up there like, Dan, what are you doing out there? Dan? And Dan calls from the bathroom, which is right next to downstairs door. He's like, I'm in here. He's like, who's upstairs? He's like, what are you talking about? So we hear them come up the stairs and the TV's on really loud. And then Dan's like, we put the airplane and the tampons on his bed. And Dan was like, what is that doing on my bed? And we hear his dad go, shut up.
Shut up. You didn't do that.
Shut up.
You didn't do that, Dan.
Yeah, he was so scared. And that's when we realized, we both knew that Dan's dad had a knife.
Yep.
We knew that. From inside the closet, and we were like, we got to open
gotta
this
let
door
them know
before
or
they
we're
get
gonna
here
die.
close or we're going to get stabbed. So we kick open the door, and they both had knives. Dan's dad pushed Dan towards
And Dan's
us,
just went
like back down the
Okay.
stairs.
Dan's just
Yeah.
in a towel.
This is
Yeah.
you.
With a knife.
That's when I met Dan's dad. That was the event.
Okay.
Because was it a red styrofoam plane? Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's how I was introduced. That's how I was introduced to Dan's dad. That's when I met him, and I was like, so I was in the closet with you two probably then. Like, what?
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah.
somebody was
He
like,
just
Dan's
shoves
dad's got a
Dan
knife.
And
I'm
then
like,
runs down the stairs.
That's right. Yeah, because you were like, what are you talking about? And we were like, just trust us.
you'll be okay if you follow us.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Right.
Turns out
How
it's
not to get
Oh my
stabbed.
gosh, that's right. That's so funny.
So he pushed Dan towards you guys?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Because I
and he was
remember
like,
that.
he was like 2 steps down the stairs too, and then he saw it was us, and then the knife came and was like, you guys, playing the game. It was what a funny game.
It would have been funnier if you guys had a knife in the closet and jumped out at him.
Oh man.
Right.
If anybody was wondering, that kind of explains Dan T in a nutshell. His dad.
Mm-hmm.
That explains everything.
The apple doesn't fall far from the tree, I suppose.
No,
That's true.
There were a lot of fun nights though on that rooftop at the Yorkville
Water
house.
balloons,
Yeah.
fireworks.
Yeah.
Fireworks.
Dumb shit.
Water. I remember he had helium balloons. We went out there during a storm. We were sitting on the roof with a balloon and like wire. We were like letting the helium balloons go to see if they would get struck. It's a really great idea.
Benjamin Franklin style.
Yeah, right? Yeah. T used to keep a bucket of water balloons in that room.
Ready.
And the best one was Marty and Walsh left, and as soon as the front door shut, T and I looked at each other like, and we didn't say anything. We just knew, get the water balloons. We jumped over the table, grabbed a water balloon, jumped back, and just both of us like lobbed them out. There was no aim. It was just like random, and they both smacked Walsh in the back of the head.
Yeah, one after another.
Yeah,
The old 1-2. It was unbelievable aim.
Yeah.
I was so stunned by the fact that they both hit in the head. I didn't even turn around. I stopped in the yard.
You know.
I just absorbed what happened, and I just got in my car and was like, "Yep."
That just gave me another memory of that house. In his kitchen, we were downstairs getting some food, and we were walking back, and he had this like glass cabinet there that was reflective, obviously. But when he was walking, he was looking to his right. I think it's the cabinet, and then the doorway was there that opened, and he thought that was the cabinet, and he walked right into the wall, right in front of me.
I love the house, man. That was so much fun over there.
That was a great house.
Spying on the neighbors.
That's where, yeah, I'd go back to that time any day. That was great.
The girl from 89-1 threw up on his floor.
Yeah.
So much fun there, man. I think I threw up on his floor there.
Yeah.
You knocked yourself out running up the stairs?
Yep, did that.
What?
Yeah, because he had a window.
Oh,
that, like,
my
opened
goodness.
up right over
Like
the
swinging
stairwell.
windows?
Yeah.
We were taking the
Hauling
steps 2 at a
ass.
time, and it was nimble. Should have seen my quads.
You could still do it.
Were we coming upstairs from having
But yeah.
steak sandwiches?
But yeah, and I don't think I even knew this until we talked about it like days later, but my recollection of the event is I bumped my head, I fell to my knees, and I got up and I was like, that's crazy.
Nope.
And y'all had weird expressions on your face. And
Right.
it turned out I'd been on the ground for a minute.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cold, out cold.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
All right. I do have another story by Jay Shortfigure. So, like I said, most of them are shorter. Jay's is extremely long, but I think it's worth it. And so I've been recording these since March, and I've been puzzled by this one since
Alright.
March. And I
Is Jay's
need
a liar?
no, but it involves second-class citizens,
Ooh.
and I need Yunker
We were
to
just talking about Nate Rudd the other day.
explain this to me so bad.
Oh,
All right, so pay attention.
Yeah.
okay.
So
Let's see if I remember.
Let's see. So my favorite Danny T story. When you asked me to do this, I was thinking about it, and the first thing that came to mind, 1999. So going like way back. So I had lost my mom in July of '99, and that was the summer going into my senior year. And so I had already known Dan a little bit because he was in the second class citizens, and I was in 3 Crease, and there was tag along, and there was like our little group. So we had played shows in like basements with 2cc, and I remember Dan was in that and played guitar, supposedly. And I remember first meeting him, it was in someone's basement, and he had like a Disney hat that was goofy that had like
Goofy
ears.
ears.
Yeah. I
Yep.
remember that.
And we had black lights, and we're all decked out, and it was like, we're playing our little show, and he was playing guitar, quote unquote. And I remember like, oh cool, there's another band. This is great. We've
not
got
wrong.
like a little scene here. They got our 3 bands, and we're playing. So then that was like 98, and then like 99, my mom passes away, and this is like the moment in my life when all the homies kind of, I guess, were a bigger part of my life, and a lot of them showed up to my mom's funeral, and it was awesome because I really didn't know them that well. Like I was literally in math class with Andy for months, and we never talked until after this, and then we became really good friends. But Dan, back to Dan, and he's such a part of everything. So it's like, I'm talking about Andy, I'm talking about whatever, but Dan, I don't know, he was just a part of everything, especially at that time, because going into senior year, it was hard, but it was kind of a relief for me because I just had like the worst time of my life, but I just gained all these friends. And senior year, I had gym last, the end of the day, and Dan was in my class, and so we also did bowling, didn't we? At the end in that year, it was you, me, and Schnupp.
Yeah. Me, you, and Spread, yeah.
So that was the second half of, that was like 2000. And so, like September, when
Yunker.
high school started, my senior year, it was a mix of juniors and seniors, and Dan was in there. We were the only two, like, from our band group that were in this class. And so my story basically is, I got to know Dan in gym class in my senior year because we were the two kids that didn't want to do anything. And so when we had the option to walk the track, we walked the track. Every day when we had the option, Dan was my high school gym class buddy, slacking off. We just walked and we talked about music, talked about our bands, and Dan wasn't incredibly goofy one-on-one with me. He was, I don't know how I caught him, but I caught him in like this really private time, and it was just us, and we would just walk. And I always remember Dan as being someone who was kind of goofy. Not that he was looking for attention, it's just who he was. But when I got him, we just talked like normal. Like, he was so down to earth, and we just connected really well about music. We talked a lot about the movie Surf Ninjas, shit like that.
That's awesome.
And I got to know him on that level, and then yeah, we just did that for gym class, and then our bands played a lot of shows together. Earlier I mentioned that he played guitar supposedly because I think it was November of '99. Our band, his band, played up in Arlington Heights at like this Knights of Columbus hall, and it was like literally like 40 local bands. Tournament started at like noon. The winners were supposed to play at the Metro. We ended up placing second, and this other band won. I forgot the name. But Second Class Citizens played, and I remember Dan, his guitar like came unplugged. And when he plugged it back in and kept playing, there was no change. I'm not doing it. It was awesome because he fully believed it. Like, he was up there. It was him, Yunker, Nate Rugg, and
Gerald.
I can't remember the bass player.
Gerald Walsh.
Gerald Ford.
Oh, Gerald.
And Bobby,
You
right?
got
Bobby,
it.
yep.
Walsh.
Yeah.
So that was their band. And I just totally remember that. Like, oh my God, he's not playing guitar, but he's up there and he was smiling and he had that big goofy hat on, and he was just, he looked the part.
Yeah.
Real quick, also, Dan just had the best hair almost of anyone I've ever met. Back then, he had like the blonde bleach look, and it was all spiky. He looked awesome.
He carried so much.
At my wedding in 2019, might be the best picture of him ever. I know JK shared it
Ooh, I made
before,
sure.
but we're by the hotel pool, and T's got like a white shirt on, and his beard was just fucking perfect.
Magnificent.
And he has these dark sunglasses on, and he just looked like a fucking rock star. Like,
Big swoop hair.
but when I think of Dan, I think of 1999, him wearing the ball necklace, bleach hair. He's got like a blue like button shirt that's open, and our fucking shorts that we would wear, our jorts, and
The extra long belt.
just him and I talking about music and just laughing and just connecting as like just two friends that didn't want to do anything in gym class. That's my guy. And obviously, all throughout the years, just indescribable person. I can't really put him into words, but he was a star, and he was so cool, and I miss him.
So, was he in the band and never once
Yeah.
played guitar?
So he played
Definitely
guitar,
played guitar.
but here's the thing: he never really learned to play the guitar. Which, as I'm hearing this story, remembering this, because that is true, that happened. I'm thinking about how much balls it takes for a person to want to go up and do shows, knowing that they cannot really play the songs that they're about to play.
Was the volume turned down though?
Sometimes,
Was it a second class citizens decision, or was it a sound guy decision to?
Or was it Dan's?
I don't know. Well, you know what? We never brought it up with him. We all kind of knew, but we were like, we didn't really care. We're like, we all wanted to be in the band, and I
You
think,
were playing guitar.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Okay.
And so, like, I do remember there was a couple times where, like, we were like, maybe make sure his guitar is down a little bit, something like that. But then even if because there was times we might have done that, but then he'd turn it right back up, and it was like, I remember being on stage and hearing his guitar and him just like, ching, 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 just like hitting it, and like, but yeah, he was a superstar because he didn't, like I said, the balls it takes to get up and do that knowing that you can't play the guitar, and Jay's right, he looked the part.
Yeah.
He looked like he belonged up there, and I mean, he did.
He sold
That
it.
was part of it, you know?
He sold it.
Yeah.
Do you guys feel too? Because Jay mentioned something really important. Also, if you were lucky enough to get T one-on-one, because it never felt like he was on. He just was who he was all the time. But when you could talk to him one-on-one, he could be a different person. Did you guys ever have that?
All the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
All the
feel like
time.
that's like my favorite stuff. Is like, okay, yeah, this guy can control a room easy, but also like, okay, there's so much substance here, like inside. It's not just a one-trick pony.
He was a really wise person. Like
Yeah.
he didn't go out of
It
his
didn't
way
make sense.
necessarily to educate himself, like
Yeah.
broadly, but he could always put his thoughts together really well. And when he had shit to say, he could sit you down and say it like, "Hey, homie, let's talk." And get those moments. And then when something would catch his interest, he would obsess about it almost and become really, really good at it, and really
he was excited about
like
it too.
his the way he painted his miniatures, like when he got into painting little figurines. He was always so humble about it, right? He was like, "Oh yeah, it's fun, but like I don't really know what I'm doing. I stunk the girlfriend out with the oil-based paint fumes. That's about it." but they're incredible.
They're great. I was surprised by
I've
that.
gone out of my way to take my phone and take a really good high quality zoomed in picture of the shit and then go online and look at what people are getting paid for, and he 100% was and that's just one example.
It made me so mad because I wanted to be good at it and I sucked at it. And he was like naturally good at it. It made me mad.
And there was something else that Jay said that struck a chord with me, is that he was goofy. We've all said that. That comes out like that's almost the first word when you think about him. But Jay said that he never did it for show.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's so true.
Yeah.
It was just him being honest about who he was.
Yeah, that really struck me too
I
because
never even thought about it.
so much of me, I feel like sometimes if we're out, I feel like I'm on or should be on or have to be on.
Yeah.
And like, he was 100% always just Dante.
Yeah, like thinking back, I don't think it ever even crossed my mind that like, knowing him as well as I did, I'd be like, I wonder if anybody thinks that he's just for show or that he's putting on an act. Like I feel like he was so honest, it was obvious that that's the guy.
Well, like you said, wisdom, and I think that's a good word for him because he was very wise and like he had an ability of making anybody smile. Didn't matter who you were, he made other people feel good, and I think that was his biggest gift, was the ability to like make people laugh in a genuine way that wasn't about him feeling good about the laugh. It was about making someone else feel good with laughter.
But he even did it in such a way too, because like Jason and I are we rate ourselves to try to make other people be better or to feel better or like try to take away from what's happening and make a joke about something instead of taking it seriously. And he never had to do anything like that. He was just so naturally funny that like you didn't understand. You could easily be like, why am I laughing at this? But you can't help but laugh at it.
Well, and I think he genuinely saw the funny in everybody else too. Because like with you, him telling us about you, and when he told us somebody was funny, it was like, okay, Dan thinks they're funny. They're funny, and now they're
honestly, that's
too.
the only reason I got in is because I got vouched for by Dan, and then eventually became best friends with Jason.
Well, and because you're going to be a ninja, and we're still waiting for that.
We'll get there.
Well, and that's funny that you say that because there was about a year that T and I, lived together in Aurora, and I remember when you're just talking about T was just who he was all the time, and I remember walking in from work, and he had gotten home before me, and I walked into the apartment, and it was literally like me, T, and the cats, and I walked in. I might have told this story before, but I walked in. And he, like the way our kitchen was set up, there was like when you walked in the front door, there was like a window and you could kind of just see into the kitchen. So I walk in the door and I see him and he's standing by like our junk drawer. And I'm like, what is happening? because he was there for like an extended period of time, like enough time for me to like take my shoes off, and like put my, I worked corporate, like put my briefcase down, I'm like pet the cat, I'm like, what, like, it's just Scotch tape, man. There's not much in that drawer. So we go around the corner so you can see into the kitchen, and he had like these really high-powered magnets. And they were like magneted to his ears like earrings. He had like a screwdriver and like whatever was in the fucking junk drawer. And he just had this shit fucking magneted to his ears. He was by himself before I came home, right? So he
with the cats.
With the cats, right. And then they were just like, I don't know, man, I'm next. Like putting some one of those magnets on my, but like that was one of those times that just illustrates like T was just, however the spirit moved him, so to speak, So he must have, and he was still in his shirt. I'm trying to think, fuck, where did he work? It was a collared shirt and had the thing embroidered. What would it have been, Sherman-Williams? I feel like it was like a Best Buy.
Sherman-Williams was in Westmont or whatever.
Yeah, it was. I'm trying.
He did work at Best Buy for one day, I think.
For a day. Would he have gotten a shirt?
He wore like Domino's
he did it,
clothes a
yeah.
lot.
Maybe it was it was
His
blue.
dad
Whatever
loved
it
it.
He never
was.
worked there.
It was
That would
a
have been
polo.
Sherwin-Williams or
He took all the
Domino's.
whole Domino's.
Yeah, so what is it? It was a blue polo. I do remember that. And I remember just walking in. I remember the screwdriver on one side and like all kinds of shit on the other side. And I was just like, fucking T, man. And then he was like, and then one of my other favorite stories about that, and it kind of like how you were saying earlier, Yunker, how like there's never like one day, like all of these stories just sort of meld together and like Dantina's. And I remember another time in the kitchen coming home and I opened up the freezer and it's fucking stacked to the hilt with Hungry Man's. And I'm like, what is it? And this was a point in time in my life, right, where I'm sugar-free and high fiber, and he would make fun of me all the time because we had like, I can't believe it's not butter spray. And he's like, then what the fuck is it? If it's not, if it's not butter, what is it? I'm like, I don't know, but it's low fat, whatever. And so we'd make fun of me all the time too about our oatmeal. I'm not eating that shit with no sugar. What's the point? So I'm looking at all these Hungry Man's, right? And I'm like, oh my God, processed food. And he's like, all right, I'm trying to gain some weight. And it said right on the package, 1 pound Hungry Man, 1 pound of food. So he's like, my thought is, if I eat
My thought is
one a day, all right, one a day. It's a pound a day. He's like, 2 weeks from now, I got a good 15 pounds and start working out. 2 weeks from now, I'll be 20 pounds heavier. It's going to be great. And I was like, I don't think that's how. He's like, what if I don't poop? And I was like, you've got a better chance then at that point.
We have some
so here's T going to the grocery store, and we would always go to Meijer, and he always called it Majire.
Yeah.
We'd go to Meijer, we'd go to Majire, and I'm like, man, he went by himself to grocery shop, and I'm like, what else is in the house? Oh God, I loved that. That was a fun time.
I love that too, just because getting done talking about the wise and the wisdom, but also the sheer stupidity.
Oh yeah.
Because he was serious. He was like a 1 pound of food per day times 14.
Yeah.
Oh, but we did. We had a lot of like, as you would with a roommate, like, we had a lot of deep conversations. And I feel like that was probably the first time in my life that I got, not to be a cornball, but like the honor of that side of Dan T, where we had like real conversations. Mm-hmm. Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
I got a lot of those. Like
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
I think all of us got a lot of those.
Yeah.
Sometimes he would just hit me up after work or whatever. He'd be like, "Want to go for a drive?" And we would just talk for a couple hours.
Right.
Yeah.
Nothing goofy. Just shit we
Yeah.
liked, and
Yeah, for sure.
like you got to see that side of him, which was awesome.
Well, and I saw that
I
side
love
of him a
movies.
lot, and it's funny because the seriousness of his goofiness would come out sometimes when, like, I remember watching movies at his house, and like I think we were watching Scream the one time, and like the whole time during the movie, he's like, "All right, Jay, if this happens to us, here's what we're gonna do." And he had thought this out. He had a whole plan about how we were gonna handle this. Like, like I'm trying to watch the movie, bro.
Dan had a plan for the zombie outbreak before zombies like blew up in the pop culture. He was like, all right, we're gonna take an axe to the stairs. We're gonna fill up the bathtub with water. We're gonna
Call my dad.
He's gonna play it for
Nice.
years.
We're gonna use. He was talking about duct tape and magazines to make armors, like, because you're most likely gonna get bit on the forearms trying to defend your face, man.
Genius.
Yep.
That's kind of stuff you laugh at, but you're like, fuck, that's really smart.
Actually,
Yeah. He's like, a weird, like, as ridiculous as it is, it always made sense if you took a second to think about the shit flying out of his mouth.
Yeah.
You're like, God damn it, like,
But the same
it's
Right.
so ridiculous.
But also yes.
Goddamn point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One time at his house, we at the house in Boulder Hill, we got into a water gun fight in his house with like the little squirt guns that you just and the whole fight, which seemed to last a long time, was us standing like a couple feet from each other and just trying to spray in the eyes. Because as soon as you got someone in the eyes, then they couldn't see, and then you go to town. Well, his mom came home later, and like the sun was coming through in a different way. And you could see the top of the walls all along was just like these little lines of water.
Yeah.
His mom's like, "What's going on?" And Dan's like, "I don't know."
Oh my gosh.
I don't know.
Couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
I don't
I
know.
don't know.
He loved fucking with his parents, too.
Yeah.
Like, I was over there one time, and T-Bone was on his ass about mowing the lawn. So he went out there, and he started the mower, turned it off, moved it 2 feet, started it, turned it off. Moved it 2 feet, started it, turned it off. And he shaved an entire checkerboard in his front yard.
Yeah.
And T-Bone came out after he put the lawnmower away. He's like, "Dan, what the fuck is this?" He's like, "You told me to mow the lawn." He's like, "This is what I wanted to do." He's like, "You're never mowing the fucking lawn again."
That's
He just
amazing.
Yeah.
loved fucking
He's
with
like,
it.
He was so quick with his wit,
so good.
and his
Yeah.
brother too. I remember the one
watched him do
year
it for an hour.
we went paintballing, and it was on a Saturday, and it was like Dan and a few of us, his friends, and then his brother Joe and some of Joe's friends. And we spent hours together on that Saturday, this group with his brother and us together. Now keep in mind, let me go back 8 years I've known him and his brother. And every time I called Dan's house to talk to him, "Yo, is Dan there? Who's this?" It's Jason. Then, "Dan, your Mormon friend's on the phone." So he knows me, right? But anyways, Monday comes rolling around, and Dan and I are in his garage doing something at the workbench, who knows what. But his brother gets pulled up and dropped off by his friends, the friends that came with us to paintball. And his brother comes walking up to us, this big smile on his face. He goes, "Hey, Dan, my friend said you're a dork." and he turns to me and goes, oh, and who's this?" And Dan goes, "Oh, that's Mike." He's like, "Oh, never mind." And walks inside.
Oh, never mind.
Oh my gosh.
That's ridiculous. Now, what's interesting to me though too is that at some point, for me, it was a time when it felt like T was an orphan. Like we talk a lot about his family, but at some point they're not around as much.
Yeah.
And he's kind of felt like he was on his own. I feel like that's where I really connected with him a lot deeper. Is once he was on his own, like we would have to, because like I don't like doing holiday stuff. I know you don't like doing holiday stuff. Like it would just be me and him doing Thanksgiving and stuff like that when there wasn't like parties or other things going on. And that stuff is like what really attached me to him.
During that time, a lot of people don't know, when he was living out in Westmont, what was he there, like 10 years? He was taking care of his 85-year-old grandma.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, really taking care of her.
Yeah.
And helping out with everything there.
That's awesome.
But yeah, he never brought that up. Never talked about it like, "Oh, I gotta go take care of it." Never complained about it. Never
Yeah.
He's kind of
bragged,
taking care of his
you know.
dad, too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was so sweet. and that was so much fun.
That's
That would have
kinda
made a
what I
great TV
that's
show.
kinda what
a
I mean,
reality
too,
show
is,
with him and his grandma.
As his family, when he felt like he was more on his own,
Yeah, his mom moved to Arizona, right?
yeah, like he
Yeah, there was a
never.
whole
Debacle. or
yeah,
whatever.
Yeah.
infidelity and divorce situation. That,
It was
totally
bad.
blew up his family dynamic. Yeah.
That was right at the end of the Yorkville house, which
Yeah.
was like
Yeah.
senior
Then he lived
year. Everything exploded in his world.
Yeah.
That's why him coming and staying with you was
Right.
that was a very important time.
Yeah, that was some of the first like real serious conversations we had was about all that stuff and how it really affected him. And
Yeah.
I remember sitting because we had the balcony at that apartment and it was right outside like my bedroom window, so he stayed in the loft area. I remember I would get so mad at you guys playing guitar.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, we're getting noise complaints.
Right.
So then, because it was just an open loft, so we would get these noise complaints, and then you guys plugged in headphones, and then all I heard was like click, 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 click.
Was
But
that Dan T playing?
The two of them.
How's
The
he
two
play his
of
actual
them.
guitar?
I basically
He was
lived with
playing
Walsh and T is
Yeah.
really what it was. But no. And then I remember waking up mornings on that balcony, and it would be like my one day off from work. And then the windows would be open, it was nice out, and I just like would wake up to like pot smoke, and I was just like,
Yeah.
I'm
'Cause
like,
he-
it is 7:43 a.m.
He was an early riser.
Yeah, he was.
He was, yeah.
But we had good
Even-
conversations
even
out
after
there,
nights of
waking and
drinking.
baking out there, and you know, especially right when he first moved in, and you know, and then we had that dartboard, played a lot of darts, and talked a lot of, because you know, I think that there was something too about, this is gonna sound weird, like not having to look at each other. You know what I'm saying? Like physically make eye contact with each other. So we're sitting next to each other on the balcony, looking out, you know, passing a joint or whatever, and then or like playing darts. We're playing darts, but we're also like jawing about whatever serious things are going on, and yeah, I don't know. And then we, it's funny because we would do so much together, but then we would do so much apart too because we're both big Bears fans, and you know, upstairs TV. The upstairs, yeah,
That's
that's
the only
right.
time I was ever over there.
The upstairs TV, it was a 3-second delay down to my TV. And so I would tell him on purpose, I'm like, hey, you can't, we either need to watch this together or don't cheer because like, you're gonna cheer, I haven't seen it yet. He would do it on purpose. He'd be like, yeah, touchdown! And then like on my TV would be like, touchdown. I'm like, God damn it!
That's awesome.
Because it's like, I think inevitably when you live with somebody, you know, you have moments where you're like, we could probably watch this Bears game separately, you know, like together but separately, and yeah, you know, it was, oh God, but we had some really good conversations, especially there in the beginning when you kind of stay with me, and I don't know, I don't even want to necessarily get into all of them, but it was like it was a different side of T that I had never seen before. Or never really, like you said, they got the privilege
Yeah, you feel lucky.
of seeing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had a lot of love and not really complaints.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
when all that stuff was going on with his mom and dad, like
Yeah.
there wasn't. It was more matter of factual of what
I
was
was gonna
going
say,
on.
you
and,
just
like,
say the things
yeah,
and
it wasn't a
then
complaint. Wasn't,
Yeah, I don't
you
feel
know?
like I ever really heard him bitch about anything.
Yeah.
No.
Or
That was
be
always a good
like,
time.
give people shit or anything. Like,
Yeah.
nothing like that.
Always
Yeah.
a good time, yeah. That was part of the thing I had to shave off of sugars was like, anytime you went somewhere where Dan T was, you were going to have a good time.
yeah.
Yeah.
Also, queuing up the next story is kind of where Jay's left off, talking about Dan T's hair. I was lucky enough to get with Heather to talk because she's like, I did Dan's hair. So here's Heather's story.
Okay, so I had the pleasure of doing Danny T's hair for the last few years, and he really loved changing up his look, so that was fun. My favorite was when it was really short, kind of like the Inglorious Bastards look, but like angled, like 90s, and he would like wear it down in messy, super cool, but that was my favorite. His favorite was in our early 20s when he self-proclaimed that he looked like Owen Wilson.
Yeah.
He had like that shaggy, longer, like surfer boy hair with the highlights. And I believe his aunt owned a salon because he used to talk about how when he went in there to get his hair done, everyone treated him like a king. So, but yeah, it's like every chance that he had, he would tell you like, oh, people tell me all the time I look like Owen Wilson. I'm like, well, I've never once heard anyone say that, but I think you think that, and it was awesome. He did have that, like, it was like the Yumi and Dupree hair, you know?
Yes.
All the homies remember that. Super shaggy. So that was my hair journey with Dan T.
No beard at that time.
Fantastic.
Back then.
Yeah.
Dufresne.
That's a good person to compare because he's funny like Owen Wilson
Yeah.
Yeah.
can be.
I could see that. I could, you
Yeah.
know,
I
back
like that
then,
you
you
compared
could,
it.
I
Right.
could see how you might
His
think
prime.
he looks like
Yeah.
a tiny, silly Owen Wilson
Tiny,
Yeah.
silly Owen.
with a normal nose.
Wow.
Yeah, and speaking of Dan T and hair, when we were in high school, he convinced me to frost my hair, and he did it. We went and bought the thing.
The
and
cap with
yeah, But he was like, I got an idea, and he ripped the lining out of the cap, and he had this planned out that it would make this waffle pattern on my head all along. But he's like, let's just see. You know, he didn't say anything to me, and it did. It made this waffle-looking pattern on my head, which ended up being hilarious, and it was like a lot of fun.
I remember that.
Yeah, that's what you're mostly
We did that on your
remember.
Right? Yeah,
Didn't we do that on your back porch?
yeah,
Yeah, I remember that.
yeah. Well, like, you know, it was something like he did that made like. Since like
I
he
think
thought
he-
it was funny,
I
it
think
was
he
something
made us-
like he gave me confidence and
I
like
think
this
he
is
made us
awesome.
put Tupac on too, or was it you? Or
Well, we
Ice
used to
Cube
do
or
homie
something?
cuts out
Yeah,
front.
homie cuts.
We put on gangster rap and
Yeah.
cut it
And
in,
cut each other's hair in a lawn chair in
Yeah.
the yard.
in tank
Homie
tops.
cuts.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you gonna call this? Or are you gonna call this episode D and T probably? Or
Yeah,
D&T?
it's
You
probably
should call it
D&T.
homie cuts.
Oh my god. I like it.
you
Well,
know.
I also need to tell you guys a bit of a side note that I edited it out, but Heather then explained Dan T's the exact photo Jay just mentioned
Yeah.
from his wedding, and they explained it the exact same way.
Nice.
They're like one person.
Heather and Jay?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
the most obnoxious.
or maybe they both perceived that
Yeah.
photo exactly the same, and they
Yeah.
picked up on the same things.
Yeah.
No,
For a
like
long time.
it's cool. Like
That would have
they're-
been neat to overlay. What are you doing? Why are you cutting all this shit out?
because I don't know how that
For a
shit.
long
Dave did
time
it.
after he died,
Dave.
I had that as my screensaver on my phone, and then I switched phones, but
Yeah,
I had that picture of him in front of the pool as my lock screen.
yeah, that's awesome.
So
Yeah,
I know exactly
Do
what
you
picture
still
I'm
have the
talking
picture? I don't know if I have
Yeah, I could probably send it to you.
Yeah.
I'll send it to you right now if you want me to.
Do it.
And a picture going
Let's
back.
get Dan's reaction as he receives the photo.
Yeah, perfect.
I gotta dig through my.
That'll
photos.
sound good on the audio.
Yeah, you guys.
Let's
keep
have
talking.
Dan describe it and see if it's exactly how Jay and Heather describe
You
it.
I've heard the word Brad Pitt thrown around.
No,
He
it's
thought-
Owen Wilson.
Yeah.
like
Well, that's the way he likes to look.
Yeah.
When did Jay get married? 5 years ago.
19.
We'll figure it out.
You know,
5 years ago.
a good story about how he brings out the silly in everybody was I worked with him at Kendall 10 back in the day. He actually got me the job there. We had this one manager that was like, he wasn't like uptight, but he was a little uptight. And one night we were closing, and Dan convinced him to do an Olympics thing in the
Sounds
theater.
real uptight.
Well, and we were
Yeah, but Dan will make anybody do anything.
That's awesome.
by the end of the night, we had the manager sitting in a mop bucket that we tied an extension cord to, and we're running up and down the theater. And yeah,
I
that
actually
was,
blame Walsh for T being able to get people to do everything. Because
yeah.
because that's the original guy. T's like, Walsh, do this. And he's like, okay.
Yeah.
I think maybe
Test out
maybe
what I
people think that my presence offers like a little bit of legitimacy. Like,
Yeah.
can't see that's insane. Oh, Walsh is
Oh,
going
Walsh
along
is
with
doing
it.
it?
Well, yeah.
Walsh is highly
Yeah,
intelligent.
Well,
Yeah.
that's one of the memories I. Yep, there it is.
Oh, yeah. That's
Damn,
classic.
that is a good one.
Yeah.
Ooh, damn, that is. a good
Fucking badass right there.
Yeah. It's a shame nobody can see it.
Well, I remember being at my house on Orchard, and I think maybe Posty was there or whatever, and or I don't remember who was there, but you and T pulled up, and I'm pretty sure at least one of you was tripping, and and I just remember a Hot Wheels car. You were there. Was it you? I don't know. I just remember a
I
Hot
think that's
Wheels.
right. Yeah, driving around in the
No, you-
Geo Tracker.
The tracker.
Oh,
it was
that's
maybe it was T.
I drove
And
the
you
tracker.
were you in my house? I don't remember. Maybe
sure it
I
wasn't
was
the
tripping.
Jeep?
I don't know. No, it was the Jeep.
Dan's dad's Jeep.
It was the Jeep.
Oh,
Was it?
T. Yeah,
Jeep?
Yeah, could
Yeah.
be.
it was.
I had
and,
the Malibu back then.
and he was like,
Is that when you guys came running out of the woods?
I
Or
don't
is
know.
this two different?
No, it's two different
stories?
times. So I remember
We're
a
all kind of
Matchbox
bleeding
car,
together, I guess.
and I remember
Dan loved
some.
acid.
He did.
We can put it out there.
Put it out there. But-
Dan loved acid.
So somewhere, I think I either I had my arms on the whatever, because I walked up to the driver's side and I had my arms like this, I think, and all of a sudden, out of fucking nowhere, he literally pulled into my driveway. And maybe you were, I don't remember, but all I remember was Dan T having a Matchbox car all of a sudden, like, and I'm like this, and he's going
driving it along your arm.
with this Matchbox car up my arms. He's just driving the Matchbox car, and I'm like, what is happening right now? And then he was just, and that laugh. Whatever. Oh my God, I was dying. I'm like, what are we doing? And I think we were going for Alfred. And I was like, are you driving? Because I feel like maybe I could drive if you want. I had a Bronco at the time.
Nice.
Does anybody remember in high school, like in the morning, we would all kind of be by the vending machines, our group of people?
Right in front of the courtyard.
Yeah, and that one day he showed
That's
up
where he put on
and
my backpack.
didn't say a word and pulled out a piece of chicken from his pocket. Just started working on that. Just the most random thing. It was awesome.
Working on that. Oh man. Yeah, there was a. Go ahead.
No, you go.
I was just gonna say I was going. Now I'm jumping all over the place. But back at the apartment, I was thinking when you were talking about like the tank tops and stuff. We had a Super Bowl party, and so that was whatever January. So in the springtime, March, April, months later, whatever it was, with the out there on that balcony, there was a cooler that we had like frozen appetizers because it was cold out, and we were like, oh, extra space. But everything had thawed and melted for months.
I remember that.
Like,
yeah.
oh shit, that cooler's out. I have pictures of this. And we opened it up and we were like, ugh. But we were on the third floor in this apartment building that had no elevators. And we were like, how the fuck are we gonna get this down there? Because there was ice in there, so it was all melted. Right, thought about that. T's like, I know.
Toss it.
We covered it in like 2 or 3 black garbage bags, which I'm pretty sure we made a trip to Majair to get because we didn't have it. So I go to St. Charles to get there, or wherever we went. We went to Majair. We got these black garbage bags. We come back, he's got all this duct tape, right? So we went through the checkout with like black garbage bags and duct tape and like bandanas, right? Or no, he probably had some.
Right.
And we were like, okay. So we covered this whole thing and like we wrapped this like triple wrap it in these black garbage bags and we just cover it in duct tape. And so the two of us are trying to go down 3 flights of stairs with this like sloshing fucking, oh my God. And we were like, we get to the dumpster and like, wait, we never thought about this. Like, what do? Do we unwrap it? Do we put all we threw the whole fucking
That's what I would
cooler
have done.
in there. And then he just looks at me and he's like, oh, wait, high five. Back upstairs.
Did it.
But I have all these pictures of like both of us little scrawny ass, like, with this heavy cooler. Oh my God. But yeah, that was his plan. He's like, I got an idea. It looked like a dead body. It was so funny. Oh man.
That's pretty funny.
That's
He
how
was
all the
probably
stories
like, I don't have a plan for a rotten cooler, but I do have a plan for a body.
Yeah.
You know what?
Maybe we
And I
can
was
use
sold.
this.
Right, we talked about he sold the guitar. Like I was sold. I'm like, sounds great. I'm in. Let's go. So, oh man.
I always said he could sell like a ketchup popsicle
To an
somebody in
escort.
white gloves.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I
He
feel
could
like
get you to do fucking anything.
he would say something, he'd be like, Dan, and then he'd be like, what?
Like that does, yeah, you know what? Now that I think
convincing.
about it.
It did. That little fucking look after he said it, like that. What do you think?
Yeah.
And you're like, God damn it! I
I
think
think
that's
it's a
gonna
horrible
work.
idea, but I gotta do it.
Oh.
All right, this next clip is from Rob Belchunas.
All right.
Is there RC cars in it?
no, I see guys. Yeah. Poor Rob.
Did you guys listen to Rob's episode?
Yeah.
Goddamn
This actually
RC
involves
car.
you, to be honest. Involves pretty much like I'm pretty sure it was me, you, Danny T. Schmed might have been gaming on there. I think Jason Carey. We were all gaming on Grand Theft Auto 5, right? Yeah. And we had a pretty decent group of guys. And I guess T walked away from his car to go into the gun shop, and you just went up to his car and started putting a bunch of time bombs on there or whatever, remote bombs.
Yeah, the remote bombs.
Yeah, I think it was like right when I jumped into the game too. I'm like, "What are you guys doing?" And you're like, "I'm just waiting on T." And I didn't realize that was his car until like all of a sudden you're like, "Just shut up." I'm like, "What?" And then I finally realized I'm sitting there trying to hold in my laughter. Then yeah, so T gets back on and he's like, "All right, I got what I needed. Let me get back out to my car." So we're all just sitting in the parking lot in our cars, and we just watch T walk out, get into the car on the game, and then he ends up. You end up detonating, and T did his classic little type scream. Since we were all dying for a good 5 to 10 minutes on that, it was great.
I used to love just covering his car.
I hated playing games with T because he had to be in control.
Yes.
Of everything.
But you know what? That's why I
Anytime
miss.
you get on GTA, he's like, "I'm gang leader."
Because
you're
I
you're
played.
just a lieutenant. You're
Yeah.
this guy. I'm like, I don't want to be that guy.
Because he thought about
tough
it
shit,
for
man.
hours
Yeah.
before playing it.
Yeah.
I played World of Warcraft with him for years and hours of that game, and he was very much in control, which sometimes was frustrating. But now, like, I've gone back to like try and play it since. I'm like, there's no fun without him.
Right.
Like, he
That's the
came
big
up with
thing.
scenarios and things.
There's so many games that aren't fun to. GTA
We
is
won't-
a big
we won't-
one.
There's games we won't play.
Ark is a huge
Since
one.
he's
I used to
out.
love playing dinosaurs,
Mm-hmm.
and now it's like without T, it's like it's so empty.
Well, that's because nobody's there just putting dodo birds in the
Dude,
hole.
you knew about that? God, I made this amazing neighborhood for hours, so everybody had a house, and this asshole would go and just hatch dodo birds, hundreds of them, and you just put them in your house.
I just want to say I kind of appreciated that about him. Like not the dodos, I mean, but like playing games with him and him having a plan and just like being able to chill and just be like, okay, like let's do what you say we're gonna do and let's go. And it was cool to do that. I don't have any specific scenarios exactly, but I do remember things like that where we'd
Maybe
play a
it's because
game
he
and
yelled at me all the time.
Well,
Anytime I would stray from his plane, he's like, "Jay, what the fuck are you doing?"
that's probably because you're
I told you.
insubordinate.
Yeah.
Well, and so he'd like go into games that you were playing together and like
And I'm a
plant
casual-
things for you to
I'm a
find to make
casual
it more
gamer,
fun.
too. Like,
You know.
Yeah.
I'm a casual gamer, so he would get so frustrated with me. He'd be like, "Carrie, what the fuck?"
Dude.
You're not.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a min-maxer for sure.
The best though
So
was
he-
playing with Schmed also and listening to T fuck with Schmed.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's always a treat to play with Schmed in general. But then when you also get to razz the shit out of Schmed, it's hilarious. And Dan T did that the best.
He loved razzing Schmed for sure.
It was T who came up with the game at his house in Yorkville that when you page somebody, you'd wait by the phone, right? Because it was always you. And so the game was, we had our pagers, and so if you page somebody, we would stand by his phone that's hanging on the wall, and it would ring, and your job was to answer the phone first. So almost every time I get a page from them, and when I'd call, the first thing you hear is the phone go flying, and then you hear like a struggle. Like, hello, it's Dan, I got it first.
Dan taking the lead in video games is funny because I feel like I got something special from him sometimes. Like, before GTA was online, what was that one? Like maybe like
San Andreas. Yeah, because that had a two-player mode.
Couch co-op.
Yes.
He loved to put me in control just out of nowhere, like in a high-stress situation.
Yeah.
Like he loved to do this thing where he'd spawn a tanker truck at the top of a mountain. And be like,
Yes.
if we can get to the bottom of the mountain with the trailer attached, then we win. Also, you're driving.
And before we go there, we got to get a 4-star whatever from the top. Mount Vesuvius with the drugs.
He always made me fly the plane, and it's because he knew and he enjoyed, even though he would go, Walsh, I told you not to do it. This is what he wanted me to do. Just to fly the plane under the bridge and do like barrel rolls and stuff. And I'd be like, no, trust me, I got this. And he'd go, those are going to be your last words, Walsh. Trust me, I got this.
We ran that scenario so many times. You never ever made it down the mountain with that tanker. You could not. But that was always
He likes
the
the
goal.
flail.
Yeah.
Now, so we do play a lot of video games, and we also had a lot of deep conversations playing video games.
Yeah, a lot.
That was
Especially the last year.
almost 2 years, yeah. Because Jason and I are pretty therapeutic when we game.
Yeah.
When we're not
That's
yelling at each other.
The
But it's
sole
like,
reason I game is so I
Yeah.
can talk to you for a couple hours.
Yeah.
about-
It started
Just
like
clear
where
this.
we're talking on the phone, like going to bed.
I hate video games still, but it's a chance to talk my shit
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, it's
Because you don't have to look at each other.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's very clear
And
because
I'm
it's
really
usually
good
late
at
at night.
golf,
It's right before we go to bed too, so
I
it's
make
like
it
clearing
clear.
for going to bed and stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, T was we got very close with all that.
Yeah.
But in this next story, we can see from Mike, Dan's brother,
Michael.
I know.
Michael. He kind of opens the door for some new types of games.
So, my story is Dan was actually the first ever GM I had for Dungeons and Dragons, and as several people know, that has spiraled into
An obsession.
was running a game for a while, played in a game with a bunch of you for a while, and I still have a game I play with a couple people I met online, but Dan was the first one to ever actually get up the courage to actually pull out and get all the books and everything,
Or the hat.
learn the system, and had us make characters. And me and Dan made silly brothers that were Mike Tar and Dan Tar. And like looking back at it now, he had stuff Chromecasted, and that must have been a pain in the butt, and the effort he put into it. And just have a lot more respect after you do it yourself, even with all the modern stuff I have now at my disposal. He was always one to try and learn the rules as best he could, but always kind of trailed off at a point. Only got so many of the rules, and it was always, oh, what do we do now? Okay, well, we'll go to the rule book. But yeah, he was the first one that ever got us together and was like, we're gonna try this different type of game.
Now, still to this day, because we've been gaming now for what, 15 years at least.
Wow.
Still to this day, we'll come across games that T taught us,
It's wrong.
and we're like, we're playing this so wrong.
It's his confidence.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, because he'll read a paragraph, but he does trail off and then stops talking.
Yep, it'll be like, on your turn, roll 2 dice, and then.
And then eventually he started going, all right.
He'd be like, I don't know, let's fucking roll it.
Yeah.
So I never played Dungeons and Dragons with you. Well, I mean, I tried once, but I can't.
I was like, you and Gina were there.
Yeah, but with the kids and stuff, it's hard to do that. But what I did do way before I had kids, and I'm not even sure if I was dating Gina at the time, but Schmed used to have game nights at his house, and T would always be there. And I don't know how many of you guys went, because I feel like sometimes we might have.
I was there sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes we met each other. But they would play like the cool board games and stuff that you guys definitely got into, and Dan way got into. But in the early times, it was mostly Dan and Schmed.
Yeah.
And I would go over there sometimes, and it was always like that. It was always like, okay, so like they would know, like, oh, we played this one once before, and I'd be like, okay, well, I haven't played it at all. How do we play? And then it would be something like that where they like, we'll just start playing, and then we'll kind of show you how it goes, and then. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I definitely couldn't play it by myself if I had to try again. But it was always fun, and actually that's when I was going over there for months, like once every couple of weeks or once a month or something like that. And they kept saying over and over again, Dan and Schmed, all we'd do is talk about video games and drink and smoke and play these board games.
Yeah.
And they kept saying, because we kept talking about video games all the time, we should do a podcast. And I was like, okay, yeah, whatever. And finally, like, way later, I was like, we should do a podcast. Let's do it. And then we started talking about it, and then we ended up doing it. But it was cool, a cool origin, that kind of relates to the D&D thing, because that's, we started playing those board games.
Yeah.
So
I wish you played I wish everybody did.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody here except for Jason has.
What?
Good
He
time.
played D&D.
You've been.
No, just Jason has.
You've been there though when we've played some D&D though.
Yeah, I don't know if it was D&D.
Walsh's house.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
you
Walsh,
came over a
that's
couple
right.
times. Yeah, that was fun.
I don't get it.
yeah, if you love video games, you'll love D&D.
Yeah.
I love the stories that you guys tell each other, but I don't understand
Some of us, that's
how
their
there's
favorite
rules
part.
to that.
It's mostly dice and stuff like that, and numbers.
It's a
What
D20.
kind of dice you played in Aurora, though? So.
Yeah.
Still, you roll them on cardboard,
I got my
though,
first bicycle.
sometimes.
I got my first bicycle, really.
No, I wish you guys still did the podcast.
Yeah.
I understand Dan's gone, but that was like the only source of new video game information I ever got.
Oh.
Now I have to hear Tim tell me things I don't care about games I hate.
I do like a lot of games.
But like listening to you guys like review games and stuff, I'm like, oh shit, that sounds.
We really liked it,
Yeah.
and
Plus-
we miss it.
Yeah,
So
I
we would
miss-
like to do it again, but it's hard.
I miss you guys
It's a
fucking with
commitment.
Schmad all the time, and I loved when Nick was on the show all the
Mhm.
time. It would just piss off.
All those
everyone.
episodes are still up, by the way. I'm still paying like
Take it easy.
$7 a month to keep it up
Oh,
there.
really?
Listen,
This isn't
everybody,
about you.
just
This is about Dan.
There's
Yeah.
well,
Dan's on them all.
I wanted to keep it up there for anyone that wanted to hear Dan because I think it's a massively awesome thing that we got to capture hours and hours and hours of Dan talking, and he didn't talk necessarily as much as me and Schmed.
Feed an AI and let's make a.
Oh, we can make an
robot
AI
Dan.
Dan. There you go. That's seems
You paid for
sacrilegious.
it? I feel like you should migrate it.
Well, we'll talk about that off.
When I
That's
lived,
boring as hell.
when I lived over, I used to live over by Nick on Hunter, and that summer, almost every morning, T would walk down to 7-Eleven, get a Slurpee, come to my house,
That dude always had a pocket full of candy.
knock on the door, I'd open it, and I'd be like, dude, why didn't you wait? I'd got a Slurpee too. And then he would walk down there with me and he'd get another Slurpee. The man loved his sugar, which we should mention his Coca-Cola addiction.
Yo.
6 to 12 colas a day. I remember
That's insane.
when we were, I don't know,
That's
maybe
a Coca-holic
junior
right
high
there.
or something.
He's got a real cocaine habit.
He won a year's supply of Coke, which he drank in 3 months.
He won it?
Yeah, at his mom's work, they had like some contest, and he won.
Just like a raffle or something, or did you have to do something cool for it?
I think it was a raffle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He didn't have to like do a guitar solo or something?
No. This was before he learned how to hold the guitar.
Oh, okay.
That's just silly though. Just the idea of him winning.
Yeah.
Years of like, I'll never forget the story of his shades.
Which ones?
It doesn't matter.
When he bought the 20 the boxes.
Yeah. Well, so one of the things about T2 is like he blurred the line between reality.
You never knew.
You know what was serious and what wasn't.
Yeah.
Because he'd be like, I buy my glasses or my shades in boxes.
Yeah, I buy bulk sunglasses.
He's like, I got 1,000 in my closet. And I'm like, nobody would do that. He's like, I go through them so fast, I just buy thousands of them. And I'm like, Dan, shut the fuck up. Like, you don't do that. Then I was in his room and there's boxes and glasses in his closet. Because he wouldn't fight you. He'd be like, okay.
Right. Because he thought it was, I think the vagueness was funny to him. Like, okay, you win this one.
Well, and he would do that like in both directions. Like he would say something so outrageous. You'd be like, no, that couldn't be true.
Couldn't
and
be.
It would be. And then other times he'd say something and everyone would be like, oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And then
it wasn't true.
No, it wasn't true. I had to get like a little operation on my eye when I was in junior high, and so I was out of school for like 2 or 3 days. And when I got back, T had started a rumor that it was my birthday, and I had choked on a birthday candle.
That's right.
Eating the cake.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, "How did you do that? How big was the candle? Was it still lit?" I was like, "What in God's name?"
Yeah, he told
What are you talking about?
He told everybody I got hit by a car one time when I was sick for a couple days. Yep.
God, I can't even imagine what he told people about me.
He got broadsided on the way to school one day, and
Yes.
told everybody I got fucking nailed. My car is smashed. I could have been dead, man, an inch one way or the other, and I've been dead. And everyone was like, "No, you didn't." And I looked at him and I was like, "Yeah, you did, didn't you?"
I wanted to talk about that story too because in the beginning said something about T getting a little slower or something like that. And not so much slower, but really, it was that day. Okay, I remember it was in high school. I heard Dan got hit in a car wreck, so I went to the office and called, and he was uncool. But somebody blew the stop sign and hit him on the driver's side, and his head hit the window. Mm-hmm. After that day, left became right, and right became left. I knew when I was driving with him, if he told me to turn right, I needed to turn left.
What?
I knew it.
Yes.
That's probably where the Meyer mispronunciation comes from.
He liked to mispronounce things on purpose, or call your dog the wrong name. Yep.
Yeah.
He loved doing that.
It's still, we play Pandemic as the board game.
He called everything the wrong name.
With all
Scooteroo.
Yeah,
that's right.
Mason Walk.
He knows Mason Walk.
Mahjong Walk.
You call Riyadh Rida?
Yep.
He could not say one word. What was it? Oil?
Iron.
Every
now and again, just for fun, he'd be like, "Hey Walsh, how do you spell how I say iron?" And I'd be like, AWRNG.
Yeah.
Oring. Great.
He blamed a lot of that. He's like assassin. He's like,
Right.
He's like, I took
Yep.
bad acid. I was like, no, you're just an asshole.
So, funny story about that. When I first started seeing Q, and he was trying to get everybody right, you know, and it was like, because I always, since high school, it's always been Jason, Dan, Dan, and Andy.
Yeah.
So it's like Jason, Dan, Andy, and Andy. And like, I always thought that was like, whatever. So,
Wait, there's another Andy?
oh man,
No.
you.
Oh,
I know you
Andy,
had
Andy.
And
Andy
Oh,
and
Andy.
Andy.
Oh, Andy.
Yeah.
God damn it.
Jason, Dan, Andy, and
That's
Andy.
it.
I know,
And
Andy
so-
always
I'm
messes
so
me
happy
up.
I got to be part of the Jays and Dans.
Right? Great group.
I'm so glad I got to be
Pretty high company.
part of the Andy
Yeah.
Andes.
So, yeah, so Q's trying to
There's
get him
3
right.
and 3. That's great.
Perfect. But yeah, Q's trying to get everybody straight, and he could, for whatever reason, like he got you guys right away, obviously. And then he's like, okay, which Dan is which Dan? And so I was like, you got like acid trip Dan, okay? And he's like, oh, and then Dan Walsh. So for like the first, like for a while, was like, wait, which one is that? Is that acid trip Dan? I'm like, that's acid trip Dan. Because he always said the same thing about that left and right thing. Was he said it was bad acid? He said I took a bad trip.
Yeah, it's the car accident and the acid. He's like, I don't know, man, it just fucked me up.
Yep.
I love it.
Oh man.
I
Or
remember
put
the
it.
first time I saw him on acid. I was rolling past the Civic Center in my Malibu, probably going to your house, and Dan comes sprinting out of the woods. And I'm like, holy shit, that's Dan. And then you were probably 20 feet behind him, and Marty, like everybody, like the crew.
Wait, so were they coming to my house too?
I think so. No, they were just on drugs.
Oh, okay.
And I think I was going to your house.
They either came from my house or they were going
Dan
to my
came
house.
sprinting out of the, I slowed down, and he just hopped in my front seat. He's like, let's go. And I was like, what's up, dude? He's like, holy shit, it's Jason Carrot. You had no fucking clue. No fucking clue. And then I believe I picked you guys up. I took you guys to McDonald's.
Yeah,
You
I
couldn't
think so.
swallow your burger.
That sounds about right.
Marty just sat weird on the back seat, fucking with Dan. And then Dan kept, oh, that's right, because we were in the drive-thru. And Dan kept tapping me. He's like, hey, man, I want to sit in the front seat. I want to sit in the front seat. 'Cause Marty was creeping him the fuck out in the back seat. That's the first time I ever, 'cause I didn't do drugs then. I knew them now. But that was the first time I experienced people on drugs. And I was like, holy shit, this is great. Sorry.
No, that's.
Speaking of acid trips.
Speaking of acid trips.
I didn't take these assholes to Jewel on acid. The 2 days.
Oh, man.
Yeah, because they wanted the Ninja Turtles pizza. He kept pulling his
Did they find it?
We're like, we need the Ninja Turtles pizza. This is stretching. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You guys watch
Everybody knows what that is.
Yeah, it was the opening to Ninja Turtles 2.
Did you find it though? It's the question.
No.
Michelangelo
We
had
ended
it.
up with a
Turtles
shitty
pizza.
frozen pizza.
Yeah.
We overcooked it, and we got one bite in, and we were like, oh.
This isn't what we wanted.
Well, I showed up and there, he had that little motion thing in the basement, little motion picture, and it was flooding the basement, according to these guys.
Well, we
Which
had,
house
we
was
had
that?
sat there and
The
argued for
Aurora.
a minute
The
about
Aurora.
whether or not, like, the picture, it was like
Was
a
that
picture of a
mushrooms or
beach,
acid?
and we were like,
That was acid.
is it moving or not? Like, I understand that it looks like it is. Like, we can both agree. You see the shore, like the tide coming in, right? We're like, yes, we agree on that. Now, is that real? And then Tim comes in, and Dan, I'm sure, was like, Tim, settle this.
Hey, what had happened that time at the Yorkville house when you guys were tripping and he had to talk to his parents? Do you remember that? I can't remember all the details of that story.
It was a Charlie Brown's parents moment, like.
Wah, wah, wah. And didn't he like lean to you and he's like, we have to go?
Yeah, I had to,
Like whisper like in front of
Yeah.
his parents.
I was really proud of myself because I conjured an entire English sentence. He was talking about like what he was going to do to his car. He's like, I'm going to.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
going to take the rotor ferner and put it on Jimmy. And then I'm going to get the thing out of the back seat. I know a guy, and Dan's like, And I was like, well, that sounds like it's more up your alley than mine, but have a good time. Anyway, and we shuffled him out the door. I was like, oh, I can't believe we did that.
I remember you sold him your 3D TV.
Yeah.
And he called me. He's like, Jay. He's like, you got any mushrooms? I was like, yeah, I got some mushrooms. He's like, bring your mushrooms. Andy just sold me his 3D TV. And I was like, he's like, this is going to be fucking amazing.
That's awesome.
So this is when he's living in Aurora. So I go over there, and we wait for his roommates to leave. He's like, I don't want to do them right now. He's like, let's wait till they're gone. I was like, okay. So his roommates all go out for the night, clubbing or whatever. He's like, are you ready for this? And so we ate the mushrooms. We were about a half hour. And he's like, we're just going to watch ocean videos in 3D on YouTube. And I was like, okay. So we watched about an hour and a half in silence of just 3D ocean videos of like fish swimming in our face.
That's awesome.
And at one point, he just shuts the TV off and he takes off the 3D glasses. This is when you had to wear 3D glasses. And his eyes are just bawling. And he goes, I can't fucking do this anymore, man. Fell on the floor fucking laughing. Like, I loved it.
That was a badass TV.
I love doing mushrooms with that man. I think I've done mushrooms with him more than I've done mushrooms with anyone else in the world.
You know, that's another mark of Dan T is how comfortable he made everyone feel.
God.
Like, I was comfortable going over to his house and just not
Hang
saying
out.
anything and just watching TV.
Yeah.
For a while there, like, after we graduated, like, there sometimes he was playing hooky from work and he'd come over to my house and he would play on my computer while I was sleeping, or vice versa. I was playing hooky from something and I'd go over to his house and fall asleep on his, he liked to wake up, I like to sleep, you know. So I would sleep on his bed. It was like always comfortable. And the one morning I was over there and he decided, he poured a huge bucket of ice cold water on me. I still remember like
on his own bed.
Yeah, it was his own bed, and he was laughing. So he's like stood on the bed and was like dumped it down on me, and I was just like wide awake.
I remember, similar to what you're talking about, this was at a different house. I lived in Naperville. Do you remember with that roommate whose dog would like hump the toys? He had like one eye that would come out.
She was
Okay, so before you start that story,
Yeah.
do you remember that when we were at that apartment and he was smoking a cigarette
Yeah.
and he just looks straight up in the sky, spits the cigarette, it does like 3 flips and lands back in his mouth.
Yeah.
He just looks at me and goes, "You saw that, right?"
Like he was willing to take a chance. He's
He was
like,
like,
this
yeah.
good last.
Spits
This
it,
good
lands
man.
back in his mouth.
He
He
did
just
that.
looks at me like he was the coolest son of a bitch. He's like, "You saw
You saw
that,
that,
right?"
right?
He did that a couple times. I
That's
remember
that
one
part,
time
right?
he
Yeah.
did it and
Because
it
he
lighted.
lit his cigarettes off the fucking candles all the
Yeah,
time.
because he didn't really smoke.
No.
But one time the cigarette landed like on his face, across his eyes, and then rolled down into his mouth.
Nice.
Sweet. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut
No,
your story,
and my story now pales in comparison to that.
Go ahead, though.
But basically, like, so we lived in that, I lived in that apartment with that other girl, and T would come over or whatever, and we'd hang out. And so we were sitting one time at a TV in my bedroom, so we're both like laying in the bed. And he's like, "Is it all right if I spoon you? Like, I'm not gonna like try nothing or anything." Whoa, you're both ripped. You're both totally stoned. And I was like, I mean, yeah, man. Like, I don't. All right. So we're like laying
the big
there.
spoon?
He was the big spoon.
That
Which
sounds
is funny
right.
because I'm pretty sure at 5'2" I might have been taller than T.
Oh, yeah.
So he's like big spooning me, and he was like, and we were both kind of like, this is not comfortable at all. I don't really even know what's happening right now. And then he's like, "Do you want to watch Swim Fan?" I'm like, all right. So we literally both laid there, like he didn't touch me, but we were both like, and we just watched Swim Fan in silence. And again, we were both so high. And then we got done, and he was like, "I was fucked up. I gotta go." I'm like, all right.
That was fucked up.
That was the whole
Was he
thing.
there when we watched fucking Fight Club at your house? Was he part of the? Remember when we were at Andy's house and we hotboxed in his Beretta, and then Dan T gets out and whipped a full can of Coke at your face?
What? At your face?
Do you remember that?
Yeah, but I didn't get hit.
Yeah, you did. Maybe it was Marty. Somebody got hit. Like the bottom end of a can, right in the forehead. They left a half circle on their forehead.
Oh,
that
no,
wasn't you?
No, that was me.
Maybe it was Marty. Oh God,
Man, Marty
Dan T
would have been
gets out,
pissed, I feel like.
And then he made Marty eat dirt after that, or grass. He made him eat grass.
Dan T?
Yeah.
He probably convinced him it was a good idea. Though.
Yeah,
It probably
he
sounded
was high
great.
as shit. Like we
Yeah.
hotboxed your Beretta, and he gets out and he like took his soda, like still full, and just whipped it, and it hit him like end first in the forehead.
I must have walked in
And
first.
then I think Marty was like, "Fucking goddamn it!" And then T tackled him and got him in a headlock and then made him eat grass.
I do remember making him eat grass. I wonder. I might not have ever known that started with a soda throw.
Oh yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, Dan's making Marty eat grass. That's about right.
See, that's the fucked up thing. I somehow missed that, and that was my car.
It was your car
at
in
my
your driveway,
house
in your driveway.
Yeah, what the fuck? I must have I must have gotten
I
out and been like,
remember all-
like went right inside.
I remember a lot of it because I don't smoke weed, so
Yeah.
I was always sober.
Well,
around
I would have
you guys.
remembered that.
I was always sober. I was always the sober one, so I have like all these memories of you guys that you guys. I don't fucking remember that.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad you could record those.
Yeah, I ruined that. I started drinking.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
You guys remember when we went to the dunes the day after prom or
Yup.
whatever?
Oh yeah, you pooped
Well-
down sand hill.
That's right.
Did it roll down and gain?
I drove up there with him.
One of the best.
6
Yeah.
inch.
Did the poop roll down and like
Oh, yeah.
make a big sandball?
We wanted
Oh,
it
that
to.
was
It just collected a little sand.
Oh, that's annoying.
Yeah. But
We got
T, always coming up with a plan, he said, we set up the tent, and it was him, Kristen, and I in the tent. And he was like, I put all the stuff in there already and set up the beds or whatever. I was like, all right, cool. Well, it turned out he did not bring blankets. So what he did was he took my
I
sleeping
had a picture
bag,
from that.
opened it up across the whole tent, and then took the other blanket that we had brought. So he basically made one bed for 3 people. And I remember
That's fantastic.
I remember in the middle of the night being freezing and like looking over at like Kristen and him like they're all warm and I'm like, give me the blanket. How'd this work
That
out?
same trip, we woke up by him collapsing our tent on top of us, and like the morning dew and everything was freezing cold.
Oh.
That's how we woke up.
Did I drive up there with
You
him?
two,
I think you
you
wrote
two
that,
drove
yeah.
up because remember you guys were gonna prank me and take my head
We
unit?
took your head
Yeah.
unit. We took a faceplate. We went
Yeah.
to Popeyes.
Oh, that sucks.
And we were in Michigan, so we
Yeah.
it was a drive home.
That's
We
one of
were,
my
like,
proudest moments because you guys gave it
Yeah.
back to me after my reaction was like, well, sometimes bad things happen.
I know. We were like,
Like, that's it. That's the
right?
reaction.
Was that the time too? I think we were either driving up there or driving home, and there was some kind of a crazy traffic jam, and somebody just started flying down the shoulder, and then all of the semi trucks just were like, burn, and then the person got stuck behind the semis, and then we passed them, and you were like, fuck you.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was a fun trip too.
Yeah,
Oh my
you
gosh.
know, talk about T's cars. You know, he had that Grand Am,
Yep.
an old Grand Am
Which
that
we
he
hot
painted.
You painted with house paint.
Well, he had somebody paint it the first time with a racing stripe down the middle.
Yeah.
It was one of his dad's friends that
show
did
the
it for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want me to show the
Yeah,
picture?
as you can see here, right?
Yeah, Dan just gifted me that picture. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Put some subs and a system in there. Then he had the Eclipse. And what else? He had that
The G
Integra.
He had the
He
Integra.
Integra?
Yep.
Painted
Oh.
cars for a living.
Yes.
Was that
The
Integra
Integra
gold?
came out
Something
the
like
worst
that, yeah.
paint job I've ever seen.
That's right. It's like
That
a
was like-
copper
that was
gold,
his
right?
job,
Copper
copper.
gold.
Is that worse than what he did to your car?
Oh yeah, it came out horrible.
Yeah.
And then
He loved it though.
I
did.
have a Lexus that
You just made
we
a-
used to work together for this guy, and we both painted cars. And Dan, I stopped working there, and I was like, hey man, can I use the shop to paint my car? Like I just got a new body kit, all this, I want to paint my car. Dan's like, okay, yeah, that'd be awesome. He never asked Don. or Dom.
Dom.
Sorry.
yeah.
He never
Fuck
asked
that
Dom.
guy.
Okay.
So he told me he did. Told me everything was cool. He's like, yeah, we can use the shop. We're all good. So I go there, and I'm like, let's crank it out, and then tomorrow we'll clear coat it and finish it. And he's like, I think we can get it done tonight. I'm like, all right. And
In fact, we have to.
He's like, I don't really feel like coming in tomorrow. He's like, let's just bang it out tonight. I don't know if you guys have ever painted a whole car.
Nope.
That's like a week-long job. We knocked it out in one night.
Wow.
So it's like 2 o'clock in the morning. We're wrapping it up. We're about to do the clear coat, and Dan's like, "Hey man, we gotta have this car out of here by the morning." I'm like, "Why?" He's like, "I didn't really tell Dom that we're gonna leave it here." I was like, "All right." So he's like, "I'm just gonna throw some accelerator in your clear coat." He's like, that way it'll dry within like an hour or two. He's like, "We'll go grab some breakfast or something. Come back, car will be dry. You can drive it home." I'm like, "All right, fuck it, yeah, let's do that." So this motherfucker loads up accelerator in my clear coat.
Yeah.
And sure as shit, after about 25 minutes, my car is dry to the touch.
Damn.
And then Dom came in early, like 6 o'clock in the morning. He's usually not there till like 8. Dom comes in, he's like, hey, what's up, guys? Like, oh, you painting your car? That's awesome. He's like, you can leave it here if you need to. So Dan did all this accelerator in my clear coat for no reason, other than he didn't want to ask Dom if we could use the fucking
Could have
booth.
just asked.
In his defense, Dom was a prick.
But Dom liked me.
Oh, all right.
So it would have been fine, which it was fine. So he's like, you can leave it here, you can let it dry. So me and Dan's like, okay, fuck yeah. So Dan takes me home, and then we sleep, because we haven't slept. We paint the car all fucking night. And then we go back to pick up my car at the end of the day, and the fucking clear coat shrunk because he put so much accelerant that it pulled the paint off the primer and shrunk and crinkled. And it looks like a flat green paint job now. It's supposed to be like a high gloss fucking like tri-coat fucking pearl paint job, and it just looks like absolute ass. And he's like, hey man, sorry. He's like, I didn't know.
Yeah.
He's like, I just figured it would dry quick and we could get out of there and wouldn't have to deal with anything. And
That way you just said that sounded just like him.
we both painted cars professionally for a living.
Yeah.
And I listened to him like an asshole.
Yeah.
That's how
Like, this
persuasive.
kinda
I
on you.
trusted him
Yeah.
like an asshole.
So this is on you.
And then we had
Shouldn't have let me done that.
The whole reason for getting it painted that weekend was the next weekend was Grid Life, which is like a huge like music festival / car show. It's like a 3-day thing and it's fucking huge. And I wanted to go show off my car. And I'm like, dude, this looks like shit. He's like, it looks better than it did. I was like, no, it doesn't. Like, it was a nice silver car when we started. He's like, yeah, well. And that was it. And I was like, you gonna help me repaint it? He's like, yeah, if we got time. that was the end of that.
It has not been
He
repainted.
didn't- Not a I'm sorry, not a yeah, my bad. It was just a shit happens, man. Like,
Moving on.
so now every day I have to walk past that goddamn Lexus to get into my car, and I just see black primer sticking out from this what should have been a beautiful paint job. It was like a custom color. I spent so much money getting this color fucking mixed for me.
Yeah.
And he's just like, well, whatever.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure he thought
And
it
his
would
own
work.
Integra too. Like his Integra, I think he did the same thing. Because he painted this beautiful copper color. But I think the clear coat, he put accelerant in it so it would dry quicker. And it became this flat, copper, ugly, nasty fucking color. And it's just the guy he was. Like he knew so much about cars and everything, but he was just like, fuck it.
Yeah.
Speaking of, sorry, go on.
No, I was. If you got more, please.
It's just about cars in general. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to do with paint, but just talking about hotboxing cars and, of course.
He loved cars.
But we would get in the car.
Eating, smoking weed in them.
I'm saying,
Dude.
we would get in the car and it would never leave the garage. We would just get in the car in the garage and get high.
He would come to my house on Plainfield Road, and I don't even smoke weed. He'd be like, let's go for a
would get
ride.
so mad
And
sometimes,
he would
too.
just sit in my driveway, smoke 2 joints, and be like, I'm going to go home, Jay. And we wouldn't even have gotten out of my driveway.
Yeah. Yep. Oh my gosh. Yeah, in the car, in the garage, getting high, and then going back inside upstairs.
It was so good.
I'm surprised we didn't die a couple times in that Eclipse of his, because that thing had some power to it. And the one time going down like Circle Drive Road, he goosed it, and we lost control. We almost nailed the car, and then he goosed it again, and almost hit another car, and then we just rode off. But it was crazy ridiculous.
Yeah.
He liked to. He always made me uncomfortable the way he drove, because he's somebody who's like, so you just drive like 80 miles an hour until you're like a foot from the car in front of you, and then you slam on the brake. That's how it goes. So like every time you're in the car with him, you're just like holding on, like, Dan, you gonna brake? You gonna brake? And I'd always tell him, like, Dan, I hate that.
Were you in the car though? He had the racer's instincts. Like,
Yeah, no,
and
he
there
did
was a
pretty.
time on
He
the
did good
highway
with
when
it.
there was a truck in front of us and a mattress flew off it, and he full highway speed, so 70, 75, whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
He ripped it into the left lane, like one hand on the wheel, checking his blind spot, rips it into the other lane to miss this mattress. He fishtails a little bit, downshifts it, steers into the skid, and right back down the lane we started in. And he's like, "You good?"
Yeah. No, that's a good point, because for as crazy as he was, he never caused any accidents other than the one on the way out of the the parking lot in high school during like finals, and we were going to get lunch. He was doing that, and he plowed into the back of that one dude's car, which there was no damage or anything. We weren't going that fast, but that was the only time that he ever caused an accident, I think.
That's actually one of the first like real things I got to bond with him on, other than like the goofy bullshit like through high school. Like me and him both loved import cars, so we would go to like hot import nights and shit, like back in the day, like the 90s, like late 90s. And like Fast and Furious came out, and we were both like, oh fuck yeah, let's build one.
Yeah.
That's when he got that bug up his ass about getting the Eclipse, because Paul Walker drove an Eclipse in that movie. And, like, I got to help him like pick out what car he was gonna get and all this cool shit. Like that was like outside of the group, that was like my first me and Dan thing, because none of you guys gave a shit about cars. Sugar did maybe, and Posty, but like other than that, like T was the guy who's like, hey Jay, like he'd call me up, or Nextel, he'd chirp me, hey dude, like what wheels should I get for the Eclipse, or like what's that body kit in the movie? Like, how do I get that one? Like,
Did you have an Eclipse at that time too? Didn't you? Have
no,
a
I got it later,
after
he had already like finished building his.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Was this red?
Then.
That's right.
His Eclipse, was it red? Did I miss that? Did we talk about that already?
Red with white wheels.
Yeah.
White Motegis.
That looked pretty cool.
Yeah.
I had a white Grand Am
With
for
the carbon fiber hood.
With
right.
green fog lights.
I did with green fog lights that I literally just spray painted green.
Dwayne had the same white Grand Am with green fog lights.
He copied me.
I'm just saying.
Sugar had a white Grand Am.
Don't worry.
Did it have green fog lights?
I
No,
totaled that
it was-
right quick though. But yeah, I was we were coming out of like Subway or something, like where the Jewel's at on Douglas and whatever street. Is that Douglas and
That's how you know you're
34?
from
Douglas
No,
and 30.
Chicago area.
Douglas and 30.
Yeah.
And we were coming out. We were gonna go straight because I think he was. Would he have been at the Briarcliff house still? He must have been. Or I meant Greenbrier. Yeah. So we're coming out, and I don't know what we were talking about. We were fucking around, and he was in the passenger seat, and I said something, and I was like, whatever, I'm gonna throw this motherfucker in reverse, just go for it. and he said something, and I was like, I'm doing it, and I did it, but I didn't jump here. There's a car.
You backed up into something?
I threw it in reverse and like hit the gas. It was just like right into the car, and he goes, go, go, go. So I won.
Go.
And I mean, nothing ever happened.
Wait, you ran?
We just drove away. He goes, go, go, go. And I'm like, I don't even know if it might have been a red light. I don't know. I just crossed.
Oh my gosh.
Douglas. And we went to his house. I didn't know where else to go. We easily could have gotten followed. I don't know, but this person, I slammed in to the front of somebody's car in the parking lot and then drove to T's house directly.
Well, you should have reported it to your insurance, because obviously it was their fault.
I said, I'll put this motherfucker in reverse. He's like, do it.
I guess he's got a history of yelling "go." Because one time we went out to
The haunted house.
the haunted house, and we were like in a line going in this all scared, except
I was
for
on
our
crutches,
brave
by the
Walsh
way.
here, and
Nothing
T yelled
scares
"go" or something. T yelled "go"
Yeah.
or "run," and we all scared. We were all like, "What happened?" You know,
Grabbed me. Like I was on crutches, and T grabbed my whole body. He goes, run! Like we saw. I think what happened was we came around a corner. Like this house was like dilapidated and falling apart. It was,
yeah,
like,
there was
missing
holes
wall.
in the floor.
The fucking
Big
living room
holes.
was like sunken into the basement.
Yeah.
But we came around this corner, and the shower curtain was blowing in the wind, and T was like, fucking go! Like he thought it was a ghost or some shit, and you guys all took off, and I'm on crutches. I'm, don't leave me!
Yeah.
Is
Hopping.
that from the skate park when you blew your knee out
Yeah,
at the skate park?
yeah, it was my ACL surgery.
You can check out Jason's episode to hear about his life.
Don't do
Link in the description.
Yeah.
that. But yeah, sorry I screamed in the mic right there too.
They've
really
got
loud.
limiters.
It's T's
They got
fault, really.
limiters.
Yeah.
That's what the windscreen's for.
That's right. Going back to what Yunker said about being able to just chill also, like, we've had a ton of amazing adventures, but also a lot of, like, I've sat and just watched Star Trek with him.
Nerd.
Yeah. Well, I would get so pissed at T because he would not watch them in order.
Oh yeah.
He would just skip around
I
to
did that with Futurama too.
oh my god. And I'm like, dude, will you watch it in order?
You're like, this is
Because
my
I just
favorite
watch
one.
what I like. I'm like, oh, we're Americans.
Yeah.
We have to suffer through what we hate. to enjoy what's coming.
That's a build up, right?
Yeah.
Dan Walsh will tell you that all day long, right?
Will I?
Yeah.
I don't know.
You gotta watch it. You gotta watch in order. Let the narrative build up, right? Even if it's
Yeah, but
boring.
in those episodic sitcom type shows, you didn't really need that. Like Star Trek was meant to be.
They are
start
all
to
one-offs.
finish in 50 minutes.
Okay. All right.
It still was
Well,
weird.
fuck me then,
Yeah.
Dan.
What I've been thinking a lot about lately too is like
if he did that with Breaking Bad or Game of Thrones, I'd
Yeah,
be like,
it
what
would
are you
annoy the
doing?
shit out of you.
Star Trek Next Gen in particular. I do that still.
What if he read Lord of the Rings out of order? Would
Watch,
you?
Yeah,
watch Lost.
Yeah,
absolutely
you would have
nonsense.
slapped him, right? All right.
It's like watching Lost in out of order. You can't do that.
Yeah, or like watching Lost at all.
Yeah.
So it's confusing.
Yeah.
Fuck.
So good though.
I did like it.
Yeah.
It was good.
But there was also a time too. So I was an extremely late bloomer as far as doing drugs.
You're almost there, Tim.
Yeah, no, I was a very early bloomer, puberty.
Big pubes is a
Captain Big Pubes.
Speaking of pubes, there's some on the toilet in there. I cleaned them up for you guys. So
Well, that's what I was saying when T told me about you and being a ninja. I was like, the only thing I knew from you was that you had a super cool walk, and that you were like the only dude in high school, like freshman that had a girlfriend, like walk down the hall. Like,
Yep.
Yeah.
You also had a sweet car and bright green track pants.
Yes,
That's
and
what
a
I
sweet
remember.
haircut.
I remember the green track pants.
That's hilarious. It's weird to hear because I feel like a fucking knob.
Yeah.
Well, you are, but
Thanks.
I want to see the
Way to
walk
God,
though.
man.
What was the walk? I don't remember the walk.
So when we used to
It was
bowl,
like Tim. The way
Stand
he
up.
walked was like,
Let's see it.
this is my school.
Like he knew people were going to get out of his way.
I
Yeah,
think
okay.
it was
Not to
just
worry
going
about
with
it.
the sway of the wallet chain. I think it was just.
I never had a wallet
the-
chain.
I can't imitate
Wallet
it.
chains were the shit. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Yeah.
All I remember
He's
is
not
your-
talking about my normal walk. I had a particular swagger, like when we were bowl and I would do well.
Yeah,
I
do the
had a-
walk, Tim.
Yeah.
Do the walk.
Oh, so okay, so you know what it is. It's a
Yeah,
thing.
it's from wrestling. D'Lo Brown used to do it.
Oh, okay.
And I just copied him.
Great.
Nobody
I'd like
was
to
ever-
Well,
see
works
it
for
later.
ya.
I guarantee you I cannot do it anymore.
Really?
Yeah.
It's a walk.
It's
Tim can barely walk.
yeah, he's right.
I've seen him walk. He can walk fine.
There's the first uncomfortable. But he had been a mad chemist and made these pop brownies once, and it was awful. Dan, were you there when we played?
I wasn't
It
there.
was-
No, I heard about it though.
Yeah, man, holy shit, he did all this sauteing and like marinating stuff, like,
I remember the first time he
Marinated
made-
brownies?
dude, like
Weed
just
butter
the
with
weed
sugar.
into like all the separate ingredients. So when we had them,
Yeah, I think he got an ounce of weed THC into a single batch of brownies.
Yes.
Like you get from a cake.
That-
So,
yeah.
like,
and,
That.
and I was very lightweight in the first place because I don't do this stuff.
I'm looking at you. No, you're not.
I didn't say I wasn't heavy, fuckface. God,
They love
who
each
invited
other.
this guy?
Yeah. Lovers.
But
quarrel.
anyways, T and I ate a bunch of brownies, and then Sarah and Mike came over to play board games, and that never happened. I was on the couch. This is the only time I've ever cried because of how much drugs I was on. There was pizza on the bar. The bar was from like me to Andy away, and I was crying because I couldn't get pizza. So I'm like, if I stand up, I'm gonna fall through the
I thought
fucking
that was
floor.
on mushrooms.
No, that was
That
on
was weed?
That was just on weed.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I've always had a good
Edibles.
time on
Edibles.
yeah,
It
on
does-
edibles. Yeah.
That will do something
Yeah.
different to you.
Yeah.
The first time I ever did weed, Dan T and Sugar made weed butter for Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And that was the first like I didn't.
That was the
I
first
still
time
don't
you ever
smoke
did,
weed,
huh?
But
Yeah.
that was the first time I ever been like fucked up.
Yeah, edibles are a whole
And,
different
like,
thing.
T was like, I think he convinced Sugar. He's like, let's make this whole thing of butter. So that way we can butter our rolls with it.
Yeah, you can put it on
We can
everything.
butter our potatoes with it.
Yeah.
Face the turkey.
So they made like a whole fucking tub of
Yeah.
weed butter.
Yep.
And it was strong as fuck. I miss fucking the old Thanksgivings.
Butterfield Oaks.
Kate, if you're listening, we need you to host.
This is before that.
Well,
Yeah.
this is a new thing.
That's what it's turned
coming
into.
up.
Yeah, it's become that, but
Going
like
to
the
kids.
OG, like
Yeah.
Was that a Sugar's?
yeah,
house?
the first one was
Butterfield.
at Sugar's house in Boulder Hill.
Yeah.
Speaking of holidays,
oh,
Felice.
look at us doing a thing.
Bruh,
Segue.
I've been like,
How weird, right?
well, because I'm like, how am I gonna segue these? And then you guys are like, we'll just handle it.
Yeah.
You guys don't even
Naturally.
know.
Philosophy back.
This is Felice's story.
So,
song.
I have pictures of a Halloween, and I don't know where it's at, but it's someone's house. And this is where this whole thing started. I was waiting in line for the bathroom, and T was in the bathroom in front of me. So when he came out, and it was my turn, he kind of stopped for a second and looked at me, and then just yelled really loud, like, "Ah!" and scared the shit out of me. He laughed, and his laugh, I got hysterical. And then when I came out of the bathroom, when I was done, he pulled me aside, and he didn't say anything. He just kind of nodded, and I was like, okay. So then we started scaring everybody that came out of the bathroom collectively, and it was awesome. And then I just thought that was it. Like, that was just a fun Halloween thing. No. So the next Halloween at the Big Easy, he caught me from across the room, and I wave, and he did side eyes like towards the bathroom. I'm like, okay, do it. So we met at the bathroom and proceeded to scare the shit out of people there too.
Yes.
Just, again, not a spoken like, hey, do you want to do that thing we did at that party that one time? Nope, just, hey, over here, let's do it. So then we started scaring shit, like, out of everybody at the Big Easy, and it was hysterical because everyone at that point is hammered, and people spilling beer on themselves coming out of the bathroom is probably one of the funnier things. And everyone that knows his laugh knows that that's, like, the best part of anything that's funny is him laughing about it. And then when that got less funny, or if it wasn't a Halloween event, we started photobombing everybody. Not that we know, like complete strangers. We would just sneak up behind people and give the finger or make a face or scare them while they're trying to take a picture so that we fuck their picture up. And it's ridiculous, but I would probably pay millions of dollars to hear his laugh doing that again.
You can still hear him laugh many, many times.
I would love to know
on
how
Super
many
Dressy
stories
Radio.
like that
Yeah,
are
that's
out
fun.
there. Like, because that's the kind of thing, T never bragged about stuff like that. He was never like, hey, me and Felice did this really funny thing.
Yeah.
Like, that wasn't the kind of story he told. He was on to his next mad story.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But I wonder how many hundreds and hundreds of little, like, oh yeah, I ran into that guy, every now and again, and it was gold every time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I've heard so many stories even just tonight that I didn't have a fucking clue about. And I talked to Dan 5 out of 7 days a week for the last 15 years. Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
Just the amount of side quests he went on. It's fucking insane.
That last job he had at, was it E.B. Brown?
Yeah.
All he would talk about is his plans to, like, do funny things at that job.
Yeah.
And the funny things he did do. He'd be like, he told us that his pronouns were comrade. And he told everybody.
That was his, that was his, he had a trans worker friend.
Right,
And
yeah.
he called them comrade.
Yeah. But, well, yeah, he said,
he's like,
it was non-gender specific.
He's like, I'm not gonna figure it out. He's like, that's just comrade.
Yeah, and I can't.
Love that.
Do you
it
remember?
was so innocent, and the person loved it too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It wasn't
That's the
like
best part.
yeah.
It wasn't offensive in any way. They were like, that's fucking amazing. Yeah,
Right.
We'll go with that.
Yeah, it's just a bright thing. And another, I don't know if he ever did it, but he was talking about he was going to get stickers for the towel dispenser that said like audio activated. Yeah, towel please. So just and see that is a good spirit of him because he would like setting up a joke that he's not going to see.
Yeah.
It happen.
That speaks exactly to what you were talking about earlier, where he cared about making people laugh, but not like he doesn't even need to be there to see it.
It was just
He just
a
wanted
matter
to.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, I was just gonna say like he just wanted people to laugh. That's it.
In D&D terms, he was chaotic good.
Yeah. I feel like me and Tim talk about this a lot. Like T would set up jokes months in advance.
Months.
Like he was so calculated. Like he would plant things places. Like he would plant ideas or like little things where you're like, that's what he's talking about, huh? like months in advance, and like when it would all happen, you would just see his face be like, yes, it's finally here. Like,
in 7th grade,
we did that shit for everything, dude.
In 7th grade, we watched West Side Story, and T knew we were going to watch that, So he watched it beforehand to find good places to do something funny. And he only had one. He only needed one, and it was the funniest thing ever. It was when the one dude gets stabbed, T jumped out of his chair and went, yes! So funny.
I'm trying to think what class we were in together in high school. But it was, whatever class it was, remember the projectors where it was like literally like a, and it would like switch to slides? So he was next to it and he had M&Ms. And he just put like 1 or 2 M&Ms like in one of the vents. So it was like it didn't mess up the projector or anything, but it like made this sound. Come on, what was the Spanish teacher's name? Young? Was it Senora Young? I don't know. Was it? She cried all the time. Like, she cried all the time in class. Like, I don't know. I think she was just overwhelmed all the time. But yeah, she was like, what the heck is going on with this thing? It had somebody turn the lights on, you know?
Maybe she was just in her 40s and we cry sometimes.
We do cry sometimes. I've already
We talked. Maybe she was having trouble at home.
I feel like now we get it.
Yeah, he had M&Ms. He was just like...
He's actually the first person I've ever been electrocuted with, too.
That's special.
In, had to be biology, some science class I had.
Wait, did he have you put wire in the outlets?
Yes.
He did that to me too.
Did he? Maybe it might not have been science, it might have been gym class. I think we tied it to a jump rope. And he's like, first one that can flip it in. And we were like, flipping it forward. And then I fucking flipped it in. And oh my gosh. And he just goes, like that fucking stupid laugh.
In group discussion class, we all had to make videos of like this quote was like something about fear. And so his presentation was that he brought brownies for everybody in class and he passed them out before he showed his video. So everybody's eating videos, and in the video is him making the brownies. And at one point he's like, let's see how they taste. Where's my little tasting buddy? And he takes the mixing thing or whatever over to the dog and lets the dog start licking it. He's like, seems good. And then dumps it back in there and starts mixing it up again. It's so brilliant.
And this was a stray, mangy, scraggly dog.
Duffer.
With one eye that didn't move, and it just sat.
shit.
That dog was so funny.
Where's my tasting buddy?
Yeah.
See, I love the brilliance. Like
That is amazing.
If you listen to a good comedian, it sounds like it's coming up all the time. But it's meticulously planned out. And like you said, his stuff was so meticulous.
So planned.
It felt off the cuff, and like a lot of it was just on the fly. I'm sure plenty of it was.
My favorite is when you could catch him hatching an idea.
Yeah, but some of it was
like,
man,
what are you
it was
gonna
just
do,
so
dude?
brilliant.
Like, come on.
Like, I see where this is going.
Yeah. Dude, so good. You'd be like, God damn it. And then you have to change up his whole plan.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't want anybody to know it.
Yeah. I also like this will be my segue to the next clip is stealing moments. Yeah.
Yes, I got 2 really good ones.
You're probably gonna talk about the
covered.
one we heard about the other day, right?
No, I got another one.
Ooh, okay.
So this is Katie's story.
This is the one I was talking about.
So it must have been the first time that I ever met Dan T. We were at the Roundhouse, and it was a small group of maybe like 6 of us. And I believe we were celebrating Dan Walsh's birthday.
It was
so we're sitting in one of these little like secluded rooms. I don't remember what it was called back at that time, but very nice ambiance, like sitting by the fireplace, and somebody had ordered a round of shots, and you know, it was presumably for Dan Walsh's birthday. We were all gonna toast for Dan. So Dan T stands up and he's got his shot glass, and you know, I'm thinking he's gonna give a speech to celebrate Dan, and instead of doing that, he proposes a toast to himself because he had just gotten promoted. And I'm sitting there just horrified and dumbfounded that this is happening because I didn't know him, and I tend to take things very literally, and his delivery was so serious. And so I thought, like, He is stealing Dan Walsh's thunder. He's directing all of the attention onto himself. And like, this is just happening. And never mind that everyone is laughing. And I'm just sitting there like in shock. Like, who is this guy? Like, what is going on right now? And ultimately, I figured out that it was a joke, and that was Dan T's personality. But I don't think that I ever could wrap my head around his sense of humor. I always just wondered, like, is he being serious? Because his delivery was always just so, not like deadpan, but something along those lines.
Yeah,
and
confident.
So yeah, that was my first memory of him. He got me pretty good. So Dan T, if you're listening somewhere out there, yeah, you got me.
I think that sums up. Goddamn it, Dan, you got me.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anyone he's ever met who hasn't had the goddamn it, he got me.
Yeah.
I got to the point where I just didn't believe anything he ever said. And, if I got it wrong and he was telling the truth, so be it. Like I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
But 9 times out of 10, I was right.
Yeah, he was full of shit.
But he always liked to.
I always felt really privileged that I spent enough time with him from an early age. It's like one of those things where, learning a language is really difficult as an adult. But if you're immersed as a child, you pick it up.
Well, that's perfect.
I picked up Dan T's bullshit through immersion.
Yeah.
So by the time we're that age for that party, I'm fluent. And I love hearing people be like, Katie said, I can never tell when he's serious, and I was like, oh, that's so fun because I know.
Right.
And it's so fun to watch. It's like you're backstage.
Yeah. You said you
really
had
cool.
2 other moments.
One other, and it's not really a stealing the moment thing, but along the same lines is that we did a little like vacation disc golf trip. It was really cool. In Missouri, there's this underground cavern system. It's completely pitch black, and you play glow in the dark disc golf. It's really cool.
I was there. It was fun.
Yeah, it was great. And we camped at these like cabins. There was a couple of cabins, and we worked out the sleeping arrangements. And there was the cabin that Dan T was in. I forget who all was in there, but definitely it was Cheech and Dan T, and they were like, oh, good, there's a pull-out hide-a-bed with the mattress. There's a bunch of cushions from the couch. There's a blow-up air mattress. We're all going to be good. And the next morning we went in to wake him up and ask him for breakfast, and Dan T has the hide-a-bed pulled out with the mattress, all of the couch cushions on top of that, and the blow-up mattress on top of that. And so he's like 7 feet in the air, sleeping like a king up on this. And Cheech is asleep on the hardwood floor, just raw dogging with nothing. I think he had like a throw pillow and was just on the hardwood floor, and then Dan's on this mountain of comfort.
That's awesome. And Cheech was probably okay with that.
I think Cheech had
fallen asleep.
I was going to say, Cheech probably passed out.
Yeah.
And I think he just fell asleep there.
Yeah.
Dan was like, instead of
And that's not a knock
on
Yeah.
I could build a mountain.
Yes.
Cheech's MO is passing out.
Yeah.
That's not a knock on the boy.
Well, then,
That's just what he does.
Yeah.
He's been doing that for 20 years. Just there he is. I remember one time Cheech passed out at Lindsay's house, and we carried him out in the middle of the woods.
That's true.
And he woke up 9 hours later just staring into trees.
He was mad because he got eaten up.
Well, usually he doesn't have a shirt on either.
That's true.
on the flip side of that, sleeping like a king, all of the snow trips over the years, T would just, because we were like broke at 18, 19, whatever, and so we would get like 1 or 2 hotel rooms at like Devil's Head or whatever, and like 8, 10 of us in there, and I remember he always would just be like, "I'll take the bathtub." Every time he would always sleep in the bathtub. He would take whatever, and he would just be chilling in there.
He's built for a bathtub.
He is built for a bathtub. You're right. But
plus, that's another thing right there that he like. It'll be funny for everybody else if I sleep in it. It'll make everybody laugh.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That'd be funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like T's like MO was just like spreading joy, but he didn't even really realize he was doing that.
And I will say, as much as he talks shit about being good at everything, He wasn't.
He,
But he was a damn decent snowboarder.
Yeah.
For having dog shit fucking coordination.
But do you remember
Like, that dude could rip a black diamond and just get to the bottom and be like, let's fuck, like, hell yeah, bro, let's go faster next time.
Do you remember that one trip we took, which might have been one of the last ones that we took before we stopped going regularly, where I think we were all leaving, and he was like one of the last ones on the hill, and we were at the bar or whatever, we were getting the last couple drinks in, and he comes just ass over appetite. Ba, 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 ba.
Yard sale.
Look, yard sale everywhere.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure he was concussed.
Oh, he was
100%,
definitely.
because he was really worried about the fact that
Yeah,
we
he talked about
had
it.
to pack all our shit from the hotel room.
He kept asking,
and
what time is it? What
Yeah.
time is it?
when is checkout?
Yeah.
Because we got to get our shit. We're
Yeah.
like, we did that
He actually
this
talked
morning
about that
before we got on the hill.
till he was gone. Like, we talked about that a couple weeks before he passed.
Yeah.
Like, he was like, man, that shit fucked me up, dude. He's like, I still fucked up from that.
Yeah, yeah, that was wild. I remember being like, oh, you know, it was funny at the time before you really realized like the levity of the gravity of the situation.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, for sure.
Did it return his left and right?
No.
No,
Didn't
no, that
fix
would have
it?
been
Right.
awesome. Get kicked in the face by a donkey and lose it.
Right, yeah.
Son of a bitch.
Donkey get
I don't
there.
know.
But oh man, yeah, that was fun. But you're right.
That
I mean,
whipped
he
his
could rip.
shit. Like, just wham.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Wow.
Yep.
Yucky.
Heel edge, downhill.
Dufresne, party of 10, Dufresne.
I still do that
I
anyway.
love
And
it.
I
So
think
do
of
I.
him every single time.
Yeah.
And Veda goes, oh my god, damn.
Oh, man.
I miss the devil's head trips.
Yeah,
That was
those
so
were
much
fun.
dude.
Those $5 pizzas, man. They were
He's
like,
actually the genius who decided, let's hang our beer out the window because it's cold outside.
Yep.
So we would just we put it in a grocery bag or a trash bag and just let the beer be outside, shut in the window.
That is smart.
Because he, again, a secret genius.
right.
It's stupid, but works. It's not.
It does. Oh man, those trips were fun.
Yeah. I remember one time me and him were sitting down in the jacuzzi by ourselves, and he was just like, this is probably the gayest shit I'm ever going to do, dude. And I was like, I don't get gayer, bro.
Don't get gayer, don't worry.
And then I think 2 other guys came down and got in with us.
Told you.
And Dan just sat there for about 5 minutes, and he just looked at me. He's like, let's go back to the fucking room. Like, under his breath, he's like, let's go back to the fucking room, dude. I was like, that's the gayest thing you've ever done.
Then you
Then
went back
you
to the
guys
room with
banged.
Walsh was in there juggling knives.
In his underpants.
There's a,
With a snow hat
With his
on.
long johns on. No shirt.
yeah, there was a snowboard trip I wish you guys could have been there for, but it was like over New Year's. And I think it was with JJ because we were like 22 and JJ was 20, so we couldn't take him
Is
to
that
the
when
bar.
JJ broke his foot?
I think it was not. No, I don't think I was with him when he did that. But we couldn't take JJ to the bar, so we spent a lot of time like in the hotel room drinking beer out of an ice bucket and watching Law and Order.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
JJ
Yeah.
ruins everything.
But we were
To
on
this
a,
day.
we were on a floor with a bunch of kids, and we made a game out of it to like open the door and holler at the children as they run past. And Dan T was going by the end of it, "No running, no running."
That's like, oh my god! At my baby shower, when I was pregnant with Draven, and it was the 4th of July, and you know, we were playing flippy cup. I mean, it was just a house party, and then I was just drinking non-alcoholic versions of whatever it was we were doing. But I mean, playing flippy cup with like, you know, Guinness and stuff. But it gets to be towards the end of the night, and I'm cleaning up, and again, obviously I'm sober. Everyone else was absolutely shit-faced, and he comes running in, and he goes, he like bursts in the door like Kramer. He's like, "We need produce," and I'm like, "Produce?" But it's tea, right? I didn't question it at all. And so I was like, I think there's some bell peppers in the fridge. So he goes in there and he gets bell peppers and he runs back outside. And the way the kitchen was you would see straight out the window of the front yard, and I see these little fireworks. So he's putting the fireworks, the little M60s or whatever it was, in the bell peppers, and they're going everywhere. And so then, oh my God, then I don't know how much longer it was later, but we lived in unincorporated Aurora or North Aurora or something like that. So the cadets, a lot of times they would send the Aurora cadets down our street, and it has cadets across the street, across the door. So this cadet comes down. And, you know, it's like this kid-looking guy looks like he's got his dad's boots on. And he comes stomping up, and he's like, and I mean, and there are spent fireworks everywhere. Because we had that field in front of the house, remember? So we would do, like, the illegal shit, like, out in the field. And so this cadet comes through, and you know, I know it's the 4th of July and I'd love to be doing fireworks too, but you know, that stuff's illegal. And Dan T, right in this man's face, goes, we haven't been doing any illegal fireworks. All we have left is sparklers. And I was like, there is produce everywhere. There's fucking shells from whatever we were doing. And the cat was like, and so then he looks at me and I'm out to here pregnant. And I was like,
Yeah.
It's just fun.
We were there for that.
Yeah, you guys were.
He was lighting bottle rockets out of your pants.
That's not true.
That is true.
Yeah,
I have video of that.
Well, I'm sure it was because it was 4th of July, and I remember it was kind of
I
like
was the only other sober person.
it was controversial. Yeah,
He used to light bottle rockets out of Nick Sajeski's ass at Dan Leacher's parties.
Yeah, but
well, that was the big thing.
That party was happening also.
Yeah,
but it was her. She was also for the baby that was coming.
Yeah.
So we were gonna do a split, and we ended up there all night.
Yeah.
He kept telling Dan to turn around and bend over. And he kept putting bottle rockets in his back pockets and lighting them off.
He would do them straight out of Nick's ass.
Yeah, I believe that.
In our back pockets.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was funny.
Roman candle out of Dan Prazel's butthole at Dan Leisure's party.
Nice.
Yeah, I got video of that.
I would like to see that.
It's funny. It's funny because it's from one of the. It's like a Razor video, so it's like
Oh my gosh.
100 by 200 resolution or something.
Nice.
But you you get the gist.
Oh man.
All right, I have a clip. This is Gina's story.
Oh,
I know her.
Yeah, I know her also.
She's trying to take all my money right now.
Me too.
Just you guys.
Yeah, just a little story. We used to have family dinners when we had podcast nights. So because we all had little kids, all the hosts and women, we had young families, so we'd have family dinners. So we had a huge table that seated 12. So we all got to sit down together, and we needed some serving forks and spoons, and I was like in the kitchen with Schmed. I'm like, I know we have a serving fork. Where the hell is it? He's like, I don't know. It doesn't matter. So we're all sitting down, and we're just eating, I don't even know, mac and cheese and hot dogs, whatever. Nothing crazy. He was a meat man. Who knows, whatever. The side. And T is just using the serving fork, like, as his dinner fork. I'm like, Schmed. And I pointed to, he's like, oh, God. Why did he grab the serving fork? And it's not like it was in the silverware, it was with the utensils. So everybody was allowed, he was cooking in our kitchen. So I'm sure he just like went to grab a wooden spoon and was like, oh, fork for my dinner. Like, what? Why the big fork? Oh, I miss him so much. I feel so privileged to have gotten a front row seat to that friendship that they had. That was cool. I miss that man. Damn it.
Nice clip.
He was a neat man.
He liked to mix he'd mix his plate, and then sometimes he'd eat it like Pee Wee Herman, where he'd take like a couple bites and be done with it.
Yeah, that's the thing. He would pull apart his burgers into little pieces and just spread them all on the table and not really eat anything. And he always took control of the grill, no matter whose house it was.
Yeah.
Like, even if he wasn't in control of the grill, he'd stand next to the guy grilling and be like, oh yeah, you should flip them now. And he had his little thermometer to test the temperatures of the meat. Dude. But yeah, he ate kind of like a bird. Like, where he would just pull it apart. Like, and just be like, I'm done.
Meatball.
He was a really good cook, though.
He was.
Yeah.
When he
He
used
was
to make the
definitely a meat
Thanksgiving
man.
stuff.
A meat man.
Yeah.
I always admired that he would do that. Like, it was just himself.
Yeah.
And then, like, the day of, I was like, I'll come by. And he was like, cool. And he was going to make a whole spread for himself anyway.
I brought this pork loin.
I don't know how many pork tenderloins we ate on game night. Like, on game night, it was always pork tenderloin and gravy.
He used to make the best corned beef and cabbage on St. Patrick's Day. Oh, man.
Yeah.
It was so good.
Yeah, I used to hang out with him at the Yorkville house. And again, I didn't smoke at the time, but he would be ripped as fuck. And then he'd be like, Jay, let's go make food. And he would make a fucking feast for just me and him at like midnight.
Yeah.
And just like a 3-course meal. And we'd come upstairs and watch fucking like Transformers, whatever the fuck we were watching
Right.
at the time.
But he also wasn't afraid to grab the toaster and 2 loaves of bread and bring it upstairs, and we'd sit there and make toast until the bread was gone. Like his mom would be like, "Dan, what happened? I just bought 2 loaves of bread."
He did that at the apartment.
Did he?
He would buy loaves of bread and he would just toast bread. And like he would toast so lightly toasted. And I'm like, it's not even fucking toast. Buddy,
warm
why
bread.
are you spending so much time But he would stack it, and then he would take the whole plate of lightly toasted bread upstairs to the loft. And then I would see him for an hour.
Yeah. Hold my calls for the next hour.
Up
like
the stairs.
comically tall stack of bread.
Where I wanted to just be like, just turn the loaf over, take the bag off, and you're good. But no, he would put them in a little toaster, but on the lightest setting, just for 30 seconds, not even.
He got into the fryer for a while there.
Yeah.
Yeah, he brought it over for a party one time, and we were all just like, oh, what are we gonna fry? And we started coating shit and batter and just tossing it in there little candies and things, because I think it was after Halloween or something.
Yep. Toward the end of that night, all that was left was the fry batter, and so we just poured the batter in the oil and scooped out the cracklings.
Yeah. Isn't that
batter.
an elephant ear or something? I don't know. He did.
Yeah.
He liked frying stuff.
Yeah, he tried a lot of things, because growing up, his dad, they would order out all the time, and they were not like me. I could pretty much go to the same places over and over again, but it was they would try every place in town until they found the best things. And so he had a pretty sophisticated palate, but it was just the best meat. Yeah, right.
All right.
But in terms of knowing what was available,
So
he tried
speaking
it.
of his sophisticated palate, in high school, what do you do after school but drive around and get high, and where are we going to eat?
Right.
And so I should say, printed out this spreadsheet where it was all the columns were the names of restaurants, and all the rows were the various ways in which one would judge the restaurant. So price, and number of dollar signs, and quality and service, and we had a whole thing. And every time we went out and got food, we would put a little rating. And then in those moments when we were like, "Where do you want to eat tonight?" We'd be like, "We'll consult the list." How do we feel about price? $2 signs. And what do we want? Quality over service, service over quality. And consult the sheet and be like,
wow.
Well, according to this, we're going to Arby's.
Yeah. Oh, that would be $5 signs then, probably.
So what's interesting about that too to me is that, as we all know, I'm very meticulous in a specific way about my stuff. But T was just as meticulous as I was, if not more. It was in his T way, so it didn't feel as abrasive, which I don't do on purpose, but. But I think that's kind of one of the things we subconsciously bonded about, was that we were definitely particular on what we wanted and how we wanted things done. And luckily we always were balanced with that. And we never really bumped heads. Except for when, after he painted those Zombicide miniatures, God, I remember after the first game, he threw away the insert and just left them in the box loose. And I was like, what are you doing? All mine are in foam and labeled and in drawers. And he just throws them in the box loose. Still makes me uncomfortable, because I know you've got them, and they're still sitting loose.
I should put those in styrofoam right away.
Yeah, I've got extra styrofoam.
How do you mold it to the figurines?
It's pluck foam, so each one is actually all custom.
I like how you said that with such confidence, Dan. How do you mold it to the figurines? And Tim's like, well, you pluck it, and it's got special foam.
Well, in Soviet Russia, foam pluck you.
No worries.
Well, are we winding down?
What, is that the last cue?
There's one more recording, which I saved for last on purpose. It's Emily. And I like the idea that Emily knew T the least. So it was really cool to see what she had to say about somebody that she didn't really get to know as well as any of us, just in her very minimal interactions. So this is Emily's story.
I mean, I think just the fact that he Like, he came to our wedding. And at that point, I didn't know him super well, but I remember just being like, wow, like, you came out here for us. Like, it was so kind of him to do. Like, it just was very meaningful. Heather had a Halloween party, and we were all like drinking and stuff, and he just whipped out these full-size Reese's, like, handed them to us, and we were like, yes! Yeah, but he was so kind, genuine, and just like an amazing person. And I wish I could have gotten to know him more.
So what we've kind of danced around the idea that, being the wise, being the ridiculous, he's also one of the nicest kids you could ever have met in your life. Like, what an absolute sweetheart. Wanted everybody to have a good time.
Yeah.
Like, we want everybody to have a good time, but we can be abrasive dickheads also. I'm talking about Jay and I specifically. But, man, like we keep saying too, he never said anything bad about anybody or anything. It just was a good time all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it was wild.
Yeah, and that's a recurring theme, I think, for his life, is just what Emily said. Everybody that bumped up against him, whether they meant to or not, if you bumped up in him in any kind of way, you'd be like, huh, that fucking guy.
Yeah.
It's funny, she barely knew him, but I know of quite a few people that barely knew him, but every one of them was like, damn, like he touched them in some way, made them laugh in some way. Like, it's I don't know anyone else like that.
No, the closest is Yunker. Yunker makes me feel the same way T does.
Don't die.
I promise I will never die.
You heard it here first.
Yeah, you guys. That's the
well, and I was gonna say, like, I get that from growing up with him, and like him inspiring me to be that way, because I always he kind of helped show me a path, because I saw him interacting with other people. Like, wow, this works really well for him, and it worked well for me just being there with him. And
that's one of the things too, is that we talked a lot earlier about having our one-off conversations where it wouldn't necessarily get heavy, but it was a little more serious. Because I like even like Yunker and I will at least once a year call each other on the phone and like have it out. Just to be like, this is what I'm going through, this is what's happening. Are you feeling that? Are you? Cool, let's have fun.
Yeah.
It just never seemed to affect T though as well.
Yeah, and I want to make sure to give props, for sake of the recording and speaking it into the universe. That we've talked about how he, loved bringing joy to people in little and goofy and silly ways and planning jokes. But when it was needed, at least for me, he was there in during the darkest times. I lost a girlfriend / almost fiance, the housemate, and she passed, and I ended up in a house alone by myself grieving. And Dan T came over multiple times a week. He brought me pork tenderloins, more than I could eat probably. But just to be like, hey, you want to hang out and not do anything, for a few hours after work? And kept that up for a long time. So he had a serious side, and he thought deep and serious and wonderful thoughts about every single one of us.
And to add to that, I was going through my mom losing herself, and I got the privilege to talk to him every night about that too, even for an hour on PlayStation. But he would take my mind off of it and make jokes about it, and just kept things light, which I needed. And it was just same thing, just kind of man, as goofy as fucking shit as you are, underneath it all, you're just a fucking solid asshole.
I remember him calling me. He was worried about you at one point, Yunker, and he didn't really know how or if he should approach you about the things he was worried about you with. And we talked
about that too.
Yeah, we had a really long conversation, and that was one of the few times that there were no jokes on that conversation. That was a long, serious, very heartfelt conversation full of love towards you, and then whatever came of that. But yeah, man, he I don't know, he really, he really just really truly, I feel like, authentically wanted everyone to be happy, but so much more than just he wanted people more than just laughing, like really truly to leave them happy and leave
okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was going through my divorce, I talked to him on the phone a lot, and he had some really wise things to say. And there's never any judgment from him about anything. It's not like, well, what you shouldn't have done, nothing like that ever. Even in a like helpful manner, sometimes people say that. It was always just like, well, Jay, some people are just, it's like just bring up these beautiful words of wisdom.
Yeah.
It really helped.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was always able with him. I don't know if we ever said it in like so literal of terms, but like anytime that I was feeling like down about myself or whatever, if I got to the point of saying, Dan, am I an asshole? Like somebody said something and it kind of hurt. Is that true about me? And Dan was always like, no, shut up. You're the best. Everyone, I love you. Stop it. Right?
Yeah.
Like quit second guessing yourself. I love you.
Although there was a point in time when we were moving out of the apartment and I was moving on and he was moving on where he was like, this is fucking stupid. Just so you know, you're making the wrong decision. You know what's crazy is like a year and a half later, I was like, yeah, T was right. I probably should listen to T. But like as he's helping me pack stuff, he's like, this is so dumb. You were there when we were packing up. And I was moving into the other apartment and he's like, this is dumb. You shouldn't be doing this. Because I think I was like, I don't think I'm ready for this. I'm putting stuff in the boxes. He's like, you're not. This is the wrong decision. And I was like, stop saying that to me. Then a year and a half later, I was like, where are you living these days? You're my roommate. He's like, bring your dartboard. No.
This didn't really fit into anywhere else in the conversation, but I do want to say that Dan almost gave me COVID before it was cool. And,
before it got you 10 days off work.
Yeah, and it was funny. It was like before I think we even knew like anything about it really.
We all got it from Jay and Emily.
Yeah.
Well,
all of us.
I didn't. I got it like a year later or whatever. But anyway, so we were doing the podcast and we had worked up enough funds to be able to buy a new microphone because Dan didn't have shit and he would never spend money on anything related to that. Like he just wanted like us to give him stuff or whatever. I mean, Schmed had plenty of stuff anyways, but we ended up buying a microphone for him and it came and it arrived at my house. I'm like, Dan's here, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm in the neighborhood. Can I swing by and pick it up? I'm like, yeah, sure. So I was outside doing something in the yard, and he like comes through the garage and comes in the backyard. I'm like, oh, here's the microphone. I give it to him. He's like, oh, cool. And we talked for a minute. Then he left, and then like a couple days later, he's like, hey man, I have COVID, and I had it when I was at your house, and I'm like, fuck. But I was fine. So that particular day we didn't decide to kiss. So.
I was gonna say you still open mouth kissed.
Yeah,
that's good. But I don't think anybody else, at least for me, like I love the group. We've all grown up together. We've been together a long time, but nobody embodies the family part more than T. Like, and I think that's why it's been a rough go for so many years now. Is that it's like that was the heart of it all. Because of like everything we've said today. And it's gonna be funny, the second we stop recording, we're all gonna be like, fuck, we can talk about this, we can talk about this, we can do this story.
We talked about some things before we start recording that you won't let us record.
There's I
know, I kept being like,
there's a story in particular that you won't let these people tell. I think that's not, that doesn't do Dan justice. I think you should let us tell.
I think it does Dan justice not including it.
Okay.
I like that we've talked about it now, though, that
now people
wonder. Come to us in person.
So now when people ask you in person, you can
only the people in this room experienced it, so
right.
Yeah.
I actually didn't, so I'm gonna want to hear the story afterwards.
Anything to anyone else anyway.
Yeah.
I'm gonna need to hear the
story.
story.
That you get with him.
Right.
Yeah.
We can say that at the end of that,
like I was saying,
the end of that
had to be 20 years ago.
Yeah, we can say that night ended with us piling stuff on the shoulder who
All the
fell
way to
asleep
the
on
ceiling,
as
dude.
high to the ceiling and then leaving.
Yeah.
Probably was not good.
That side note to that is that's the night that
passed out.
you tried to teach me how to drive stick shift.
Oh yeah.
You guys were all drunk and I didn't drink.
We were
then.
going down the parking garage.
And you're like, I can just teach you. It's not a big deal. And then you try to teach me, and I'm like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
So then you
Tim just coasted it down the ramp.
right into traffic.
Into traffic. Just neutral.
It's easy to drive stick downhill.
Yeah.
It's easy to drive stick if you don't touch the stick.
Boom.
I forgot about that that night.
You taught me to drive a stick uphill on gravel in the tracker.
Like a goddamn
Right?
In negative 30-degree
In
weather.
uphill both
Uphill both
ways.
ways.
In the Geo
Barefoot. In the Geo Tracker.
It was nighttime.
That fucking tracker.
That tracker was the shit.
Dude, we whipped to 180 and
if you want to flip over.
I want a tracker now, but they're going for like 10 to 12 grand.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
wow.
insane.
And they haven't made them in a long time.
No.
I assume.
Yeah.
Yeah. They made ugly ones after that.
They were always ugly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can whip it at a 180 and you can like touch the ground.
Yeah, upside down.
It's awesome.
Those things flipped
Yeah.
over like more than Jurassic Park cars.
Anything that was anywhere near a window was out the window. Once you-
You know, I was just thinking to kind of tie some things back with his dad being who he was. Dan's dad was the kind of guy, so Dan watched his dad all his life, and Dan's dad was the kind of guy that anywhere he went, he knew the person in there by the first name.
Yep.
And would have a conversation with them and would crack jokes with them. It was just the friendliest dude.
Hey Dan, can you give me a Wendy burger?
You know, he taught Dan a lot about that. Just from his example.
Even my dad, I don't know if that ever came up, but they like used to work together like way back in the day, and then so when it's grade school comes around and I start riding my bike over to the Terracina, he's like, Terracina? Roy? T-Bone? T-Bone? Yeah, he's like, that guy's crazy.
He loves knives.
Oh, man.
I'm really glad Dan didn't take up the knife fetish.
He did.
Well, Dan never actually brandished a knife at me.
Yeah.
Only at meats that he was cooking or something, or
I
cutting.
think it was just a matter of time. It was oh man, I just feel really privileged that we got to be on the inside baseball of his madness.
No doubt.
Like, how fucking cool.
Yeah.
All in all, just probably the coolest dude I'll ever know.
Yeah,
And
he's one of a kind.
And not in
Nobody
the
like him,
traditional
yeah.
cool way.
No.
Just naturally, just one of the best fucking
No,
people.
yeah, he's one of those people that's like, he's not cool because he does the cool things.
Yeah.
It's like
Mm-hmm.
he's cool because nobody
it's
else
crazy,
is like
'cause
that.
Even though he
In his
tried to do
mind-
the cool things.
Exactly.
Like
In his
he
mind,
was
he's
the
like,
coolest.
I've got to be the
Yeah.
coolest. I want to do the
Yeah.
coolest things. But he didn't have to do anything.
No, and that's not how he came off
fucking
either.
Yeah.
He just did those. Like he wanted to be that,
He-
and he was that, but he
leaned
didn't
into
need
his
to
own
try to be
failures
like
with
that.
confidence and
Yeah.
and
Well,
a,
it'd be-
and a joke. Yeah.
It'd be like, yo, I'm gonna get an awesome car. I'm gonna get this Eclipse, and I'm gonna put 4 12-inch subwoofers, and it's gonna have this banging sound system, and I'm gonna drive down the road listening to Stan Bush, Transformers. You got the touch, you know. So it's like kind of a best of both worlds thing there. Like you got this dorky music being played on this awesome system.
I mean, that Grand
This
Am
cool
of his
car.
almost embodies him because the high school, nobody had a custom paint job on their car in high school.
Yeah.
We had what we were lucky enough for our parents to give us, right?
Yeah.
He was like, yo, I'm getting this custom painted racing stripe right down the
Right.
middle.
Yeah.
It was a little to the left. Like, noticeably 2 inches to the left.
Well, and the guitar thing too, I think, is huge.
Yeah, everything. Like he didn't have to be cool. He was just already.
And well, and he always had the newest video game system, and he was very good at video games too.
Yeah.
He had Neo Geo, man. I remember that going over to his house.
He had Sega Channel, dude.
Sega
Yeah.
Channel.
Sega Channel.
First streaming service.
Yeah.
Didn't his dad call him out of school to get the first PlayStation?
Yeah,
I think I remember him
PS2
saying that.
maybe.
Yeah.
Was it one of those?
I think there were a couple of those.
Yeah.
I think maybe like the Super
Call him out of school, go
Nintendo.
wait in line to get the first.
Yeah, because his dad would take him and his brother, and they
Yeah.
would go buy the newest things when they came out. And his dad, another thing, like when I would spend the night over there, his dad used to work at the casino. And there was multiple times where his dad would come home from work and be like, yo, here, Dan, here's $100.
Yeah.
Just like slap some cash at him. He's like, you guys want to go to the store?
Yep.
Get you some treats?
Yep. I remember one day
Hey,
he.
Dan, why don't you go to Wendy's?
Yeah.
Yep. Give me a Wendy burger.
Give me a Wendy burger. Go to Wendy.
Wendy burger.
Give me 100 Wendy burgers. You keep whatever's left.
Yep, one time he came home from the track and had hit a trifecta, which is like you pick the first, second, and third place horse, and it pays off big.
Yeah.
And so he came downstairs. We were playing video games, and his dad came down with a stack of hundreds and was like, "Hey Dan, you want $100?" And he threw it on the floor. He's like, "Pick that up with your butt cheeks, and it's yours." And so Dan paused the game, and he was like, "Hang on one second."
Oh yeah.
Did he do it?
Oh hell yeah! He dropped trout and
Yes.
Straightened his tie and.
I'm so glad that made it into this podcast. That's amazing.
I feel like that.
That's the best story of the night, I'd say.
That's the capper right
That
there.
is right there.
Yeah. I
Can't beat it.
I think we accomplished what I was hoping for. Is just a love letter to our friend.
Yeah.
And this is literally just 2.5 hours of just stories. I don't know enough about his life to tell his life story. I can only relate it to the time I've shared with him.
Yeah.
And it's been fucking incredible.
Yeah.
Not enough.
And no one, we didn't cry at all. We made it.
We made it.
Got close.
The drive home.
I was gonna say.
The drive home will get us.
Yeah.
Maybe when we're listening to it.
Yeah.
I think I just want to cap it with just thanking him for accepting me into his life. Like I fucking.
It does feel like you're chosen,
it's
right?
Hard,
Yeah.
When you're friends with
to
him.
find people like that, and I don't think I ever will, other than this group, probably. But just thank you.
Yeah, I would give
wherever
him
you're at. Thank you.
I'll give him, I think, the highest compliment, and the only compliment that really matters in the world, I think, is my life is better with him in it.
Yeah.
Amen.
I agree. Yeah, I think that's the best place to end. I don't think anybody would argue with that. I love him and I miss him.
Yeah.
Until next time. Thank you guys so fucking much.
Thanks for doing this.
I know it was a pain in the ass to get all of us on the same thing.
Worth it.
Only because of Annie.
One was Annie, one was Dan, and then it was him. Like, but either way, like I'm so fucking glad we got to do it. This particular group, we got to sit down. Thank you guys so much. I love you guys as well.